I was curious about the discussion.
Yeah. I think it was just back and forth.
We have the base.
I know.
Check.
I took a shower and brushed my teeth. Maybe these aren't.
I am going to call to order the Parks and Recreation Commission meeting of May 7th. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Unfortunately, Sunday is sick today. Sunday, if you're watching, we're sorry you're not feeling well. So I am going to be the chair for tonight. I guess we need to have our roll call.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Becker? Here. Commissioner Roddick?
Here.
Commissioner Dutter?
Here.
Vice Chair Ittner?
Here.
And Commissioner Ford? Here.
Okay. So I don't have any public comment cards. Does anybody have a public comment? Okay. If you have any comments on any of our other items, there are probably comment cards over there. Feel free to turn it in, and we'll do that as each item comes up. So the first thing on our agenda is presentations, and Heather King is here.
So
I know we're right out. Did you want to do an
I'll just say
introduction?
an introduction, a couple words
Thank you.
for Heather. Heather started with the Recreation Department back in January of 2014. That's when we started our wilderness program, so almost a year and a half. This is an employee-based program rather than the majority of our other classes, which are contractor-based. So we're happy to have Heather here tonight. She's had in that year and a half, well over 100 participants in this program.
Very successful.
Yes,
Yeah.
and already for the summer, it is the highest enrolled. We've already have over 100 enrollment in our summer programs, our specialty camps. Yeah, it's really early enrollment right now, and her enrollment is the highest of the early enrollment that we have.
Congratulations.
So, yeah. So
I win
I'll
the
leave
award.
it. Yeah, you win the award. So I'll leave it to Heather right now. Maybe while I'm setting up, we do have a PowerPoint presentation of photos of the
Great.
program. So while she's talking a little bit more maybe about her background, I will get that set up on the screens here.
Alrighty.
Great. So in order for me to be heard, I want to go and walk out there. Does it matter that I leave this microphone?
It'll be hard for them to hear you at home if you're not on the microphone.
Okay. Well, I'll say what I need to say, and then I'll come over. So while Sophocles is setting up, and before I get going with pictures and some background, what I want to do is hand some stuff around for you guys. And a big part of what I do is experiential education. And so it just doesn't really make any sense for me to come and just lecture you. So I can't help myself. I want to share a little bit, and it's a great way just to kind of engage you as I do the kids in other ways besides just listening.
I think if you'd like to, too, we've got an extra seat over here if you just want to sit down and speak. And then we'll be able to see you as well.
Perfect.
At
Yep.
home.
Yeah.
So if you want to come sit right next to
Okay.
Sophocles, feel free.
Okay, I will. Let's
And
see.
you can still
And I can still click.
use the clicker, to move the. She can,
You can just either way, or you can move your mic over.
that's what I'll do.
There you go.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is just pass these around, or I'm going to actually ask Sophocles. What you could do is just take one and pass it, and then take another one in a minute and pass it, so that you get one at a time.
Okay.
And my request is that you check it out, and while you're zoning out because I'm talking too much, feel free to just explore the thing that I gave you, and if it brings up questions or whatever, then that's appropriate as well. And my only last thing is feel free to smell the things that you get as well as touch them and just look at them. So
All your senses, okay.
yeah, that's what this is all about. So as Sophocles said, my name is Heather King, and I run the Venture Wild Wilderness Discovery programs. And we started out in 2009 under the auspices of Oak Grove School, and they were gracious enough to get us on our feet with the liability insurance and the vans, which now is provided by the Ojai City. Without that, we wouldn't have a program, because that is a really important aspect of it, is going to the local wilderness places. Instead of talking about it or bringing a bunch of stuff to a classroom and doing it, we really think that it's important that kids are immersed in the experience. So that is what our program is about. Since 2009, we have been doing summer programs with the kids of Ventura County, so it's not just Ojai. And why it's called Ventura Wild is because I really wanted to reach out to the bigger community. I feel like there's a lot of access in Ojai to nature and not so much in other parts of our county. So while it is a program that caters a lot to Ojai and obviously reaches lots of kids, all kinds of backgrounds in Ojai, which is really important, we want to also bridge into other communities and bring them up to the wild places. And Ventura does not have access to a lot of dirt, so it's really nice to be able to bring them up here. So that said, why do we bring kids out into nature experiences? And I'm going to go ahead and start with our pictures a little bit here. A lot of what we do has to do with storytelling. So I think all of us probably, or many of us, hopefully, have stories about us in nature. When I was little, I used to go out across the street and walk my dog and throw lemons around and dig in the dirt and find spiders. And these are a lot of what form us as humans. So we have those experiences as children, and they inform our growth and our development as we grow up. Whatever your story is a part of you, is a part of what makes you who you are today. And what we're finding is that kids have less and less access to natural places. So our program is kind of, yeah, let's go out and play outside. Let's take the kids out and have fun. But I and all of my staff have a little bit deeper intentions, and our vision is really to continue that model of nature being a part of growth and a part of development and a part of becoming human. Because I think what we're finding is that the clicker is not working. Where do I?
No,
there we go. Okay, so we like to say that nature makes kids happy because they're out, they're being kids, they're doing all the fun stuff that kids do. They're very physical and active, and it integrates all of what it means to be human. So that's a really important part of nature. There's also that nature makes kids healthy. So we've obviously got a lot of issues around kids and health these days, that kids are not getting enough exercise, they are not moving their body enough, they don't have all the sensory motor skills, and a lot of that is because they're not just outside goofing off. So that makes them a more healthy person to have that experience. And then finally, we think that nature makes kids smarter, because all of those neurons are constantly connecting with every activity that they do, having to do with climbing over a rock, climbing a tree, aiming something, getting their fingers in the mud. So all those tactile experiences that kids do naturally are being removed from their experience. They go to daycare, it's maybe a cement lot, worst case scenario, and or they just don't have that free play to reflect and discover and explore on their own. There's always limitations, which sometimes that's rightfully so. It's a large group, depends on the environment that they're in. But we want to bring this back into a child's experience, is these opportunities to grow. I'm still having trouble getting it changed.
I think it takes a few
Okay, yeah, I'm just impatient. So some of this is talking about what we do with kids outside. So I wanted to kind of go into a little bit of what is this getting kids outside in nature? Does that mean just that they just go do whatever? And yeah, some of that actually is. We call it wandering. We actually share with kids the idea of wandering. We actually have to reteach for kids how to be good explorers. Sometimes we have to teach kids that it's okay to take your shoes off because they're not allowed to take their shoes off anywhere else. That they can throw things and they can pick up sticks. You know, a lot of places the rule is you can't pick up sticks. And all of those require skills, require motor skills and things, and neurons are clicking in that don't happen in a classroom. One of the big things is kind of this either or. Oh, well, either your kids are outside, you know, playing and goofing off, or they're learning academics. And I think that there really needs to be a marriage between those two, that the idea that nature experience actually enhances the classroom experience, that if they get a chance to reflect and to absorb that information and to explore it outside and see how it fits into the natural world, they become better learners. And they become more engaged in the classroom, and they learn how to ask good questions. So you can see, to me, obviously, this is a really, really important thing, and it's very, very simple. It really is just getting kids out on a walk and following and exploring and asking questions. But I think it just adds so much more to life on so many levels. It's such a valuable experience. So we do a lot of focus on sensory stimulation. I'm passing these things around, all kinds of different plants, animals. We talk about scat. We go through all the different sciences, natural sciences. We do edible plants, poisonous plants, all different ways to just get kids excited. Not all kids are interested in plants. Not all kids are interested in learning about geology, but there's so much complexity and diversity and cycles and systems and interdependence and problems, and the kids are interacting with each other, and it just goes on and on and on. So it's just rife with opportunity for creativity and learning that comes naturally to kids. So again, it's that idea that this is where learning happens naturally for kids. So we also focus on something, it's called cultural mentoring. So this is something that has to do with how we act as staff. The people that go out there, they are actually trained in taking kids out into nature. It's kind of different than being regular classroom teachers. I have a teaching credential, and those things can help us to kind of know the developmental stages and to understand children's levels of understanding. And so what we try and do is we bring this into the bigger picture of the culture. Kids have been learning out in nature since forever. That's how they learned. It used to be where school happened. And so we try to bring that back in. It's a natural learning experience. And so we do problem solving, we do creative artwork, we do journaling. There's all kinds of just finding and asking and exploring and science projects. And it goes on with what those kids are interested in. So another big part of the mentoring is really getting to know the kids. So we have a 4-to-1 ratio, which is really unusual, right? Usually it's 12, 15, 30, 40, depending on the kind of program. So not only are we taking kids to places where there are plenty of risks out there, and we want to have plenty of supervision, but we also really need to get to know those kids. And we really want to know where their interests are and where their fears are, and what their backgrounds are, what their experiences are, what they know. So that's really exciting to us as mentors. And so if you haven't already caught that, nature is really a metaphor for us, for life, for learning how to engage in the world. And we kind of think that the more fun you can possibly have, the more you teach kids how to have fun with learning and with experiencing life, then they become better learners. They become better citizens of our community. They care more. We have certain core routines that we engage every day. It's a big part of our program to have traditions and routines that the kids go through. We always do appreciation circles. So the kids learn how to just be appreciative that they have clean air to breathe, or just be appreciative that they have their friend, that they found a lizard together and checked it out, and oh wow, it had blue on the underside. How cool is that? What should we call it? One of the big things is that we don't go out and lecture the kids about the names of 50 million birds and plants, and we don't say, okay, write that down. But the kids generally come to a place of wanting to know once they have experienced it. So they might taste something, the fennel plant. They might find a gall from the oak. And then they want to know more, and then finally that name has a place and makes sense. So I don't know if you guys, when you're in school, you learn a whole bunch of facts and figures and then it's gone as soon as that test is over. Well, obviously, the more that you interact with something and have an interesting conversation about it, the more you are bound to understand it, comprehend it, and remember it. So I have a little question for you guys. And we do this with the kids. So a lot of times having to do with awareness. We're trying to raise the awareness of the kids, their senses, their place on this world. We call it place-based learning. So the more, instead of learning about the rainforest really far away or something that doesn't interact with them on a daily basis, we learn about things right where they are. So you don't have to point or anything, but you can try to decide right now, wherever you are, where is north? Okay, now you don't have to, but if you want to close your eyes, who is sitting 2 people to your left from you without looking? And we'll ask the kids, like, what color shoes am I wearing? What phase is the moon in right now? So it's just stuff to constantly keep them on their toes. It's kind of fun. And they start to pay attention to things, and be good investigators and kind of check out all these things, because they never know when we're going to hit them with a question or something new. And just being aware of their space in the world, suddenly they stop tripping over rocks. Suddenly, it's that idea of awareness. Instead of holding their hand when they go over on the rough trail, we talk about, fox walking and really watching where they put their feet. And suddenly they're not getting thorns. They're not stepping on bees. And they're helping each other. And these are all skills, again, that have to do with just being part of nature. We are in this natural environment, and we know how to do it naturally. So I guess there's one final thing I want to do, and that is, then I'm going to actually see what kinds of responses you have to the things I passed around. But this is a book. It's called Last Child in the Woods, Saving Our Children from Nature Deficit Disorder. It's by Richard Louv, and many of you may have heard of it. It's kind of brought nature education into the mainstream recently, and allowed for a lot of programs and a lot of parents and people to kind of realize that there's actually a problem with having kids not be out in nature as much as they used to be. And there's just a really small part I want to share with you that might kind of bring this home, and then I will open it up for any questions or things that I haven't mentioned that you're curious about. So it says, when we were young, we tramped through forests of Nebraska cottonwoods, or raised pigeons on a rooftop in Queens, or fished for Ozark bluegills, or felt the swell of a wave that traveled 1,000 miles before lifting our boat, when we were bound to the natural world and remain so today. Nature still informs our years, lifts us and carries us. For children, nature comes in many forms: a newborn calf, a pet that lives or dies, a worn path through the woods, a fort nested in stinging nettle, a damp, mysterious edge of a vacant lot. Whatever shape nature takes, it offers each child an older, larger world, separate from parents. Unlike television, Nature does not steal time, it amplifies it. So that is the end of my presentation. Are there any questions about anything that I haven't covered or you're curious about?
Question about your items.
Sure.
Did you guys dye the yarn with the kids?
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
And so plant-based dyeing?
It is.
Oh, neat.
Yes, there's all different kinds of stuff around here, and some of them are things like onion skins and that kind of stuff, but we also have some bugs called the cochineal bugs that grow on the cactus locally, and they look like kind of mildew, and they grow all over Ojai. They're a great thing to show kids because it's a natural food coloring and also for cloth.
Neat.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Did any of the items that you noticed or that you handed around really grab your attention, or anything that you want to share about something you saw there? Obviously, the rest of the audience can't see them. Anything that you thought was really cool?
Sage.
Yeah, that's
Smell.
white sage. Yeah,
It reminded me of a kid in Ojai.
Nice.
I smelled it.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sense of smell is such an important piece.
It was. That's pretty powerful.
And those tules. I love the tule hat.
Good.
Do you
good.
make those with the kids too?
Yes,
That's
yes, when we
wonderful.
can. Depending on the age, obviously,
Yeah, what
all
their
that weaving and
dexterity is.
braiding, but,
Oh, that's really
yeah,
neat.
that's really fun.
And even though I'm close to the program, Heather, and probably could have asked you this question long ago,
Go.
but I noticed something that looked like a potential fire starter, but I'm doubting this isn't really a survivalist-based kind of wilderness program, but is that not like some sort of fire starter?
Oh, maybe there's
that's
some
sitting on the boat?
Like
Tinder
a lichen
there.
on
That
a-
tinder? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
what-
right. A little bit of
But-
the old man's beard there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, old man's beard. Yeah, we use it for tinder, and we do primitive skills in the program. We do, and I didn't mention this. We do fire making in places that we can. Obviously, we can't do fires in a lot of places. And we also do knife safety. So you can see in one of those, we actually carve wooden knives, which is just a fun process. But, these are kids that are learning how to use a very sharp object. And that's kind of a fun, very edgy thing for families. And we always preface it with, making sure the kids are ready and how we do the safety talks and that kind of thing. But what an amazing sense of accomplishment for these kids to feel like they can handle a knife safely and they know how to teach each other that, you're in my space and, it's not safe or whatever it is. And then they can make things that they can play with and use. They can make their own toys. How cool is that? So yeah, those
So
are.
how many people do you have on staff?
So it ranges because we're so part-time, there's always a flux. But right now, we actually are just doing our staff training this coming weekend, and there will be 8 people
Nice.
there. Yeah, so.
So if
it's a
once
lot.
you're done, if you fill up all your programs, how many kids will you serve over the summer?
So
That's a
let's
hard
see,
question,
if we
but-
have 15 kids in a program, so.
You have 4.
Yeah, and
4
we have
programs?
4.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
so
great.
quite a few kids in there, and a lot of these kids have come before. They do the after school program, and then they come for the summer program, or they start with the summer and then they want to come back for the after school. And that the intention, and that was one of the really amazing blessings of working with the Ojai City program, is that we can do the after school programs. And that's new, starting, leaving Oak Grove and coming here so that we can reach the bigger community and have it be ongoing. And then have homeschool groups and then do, classroom, class field trips and the whole ball there. We can keep going year round.
So do you do special programs for the homeschools during their hours of operation?
Yes, so that is a continuing and it's developing and, we're still making those contacts. So, so that is a piece that needs to grow as well.
Great.
Do some of the overnight or some of the summer programs include overnight camping trips?
They do, yeah. In fact, we have 2 this year, and so far we've usually just done 1 overnight with they're like 10 to 12-year-olds, and since we're going up a little bit, now we have a 2-nighter, and I'm so excited to do it because, partly it's selfish because it means that we don't have to worry about when do we have to get back. Everyone thinks, 9 to 4, it's such a long day. What do you do with those kids? And it's no time at all, So just to be able to stay out there and just keep going and telling stories and looking for things is a really sweet thing. and wake up
Nice.
and, yeah, tell stories at night and have campfires or whatever. So.
Any other questions, guys? Well, thank you
Okay,
so much for
yeah.
coming and presenting. That was wonderful.
Thank you for having me. I will, before I go, also just hand out a little, this is a nature knowledge survey. So it's something just kind of fun
Yeah, we do.
for you guys.
And Heather will be, of course, at
grading
the
afterwards.
open-
I'll be grading,
She'll be
yes.
grading and bring it to the open house. She'll be at the open house Saturday,
Sure,
May
sure.
16th, you know, have this
Please,
completed.
Give me a
Yes.
couple of those.
Oh,
Great.
sure.
Thank you. All right,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks so much for doing that.
Thank you.
It was fun.
Okay, so we are on to the police department report. You're up. Thank you. So glad you're here.
Good evening, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Good, nice to see everybody.
You too?
I don't have a whole lot, as usual. I'll just talk a little bit about what's going on with the department. The calls for service in the parks are about the same. You know, I always look at like the last 30 days usually to try and give you an idea. The skate park, it's picked up a little bit, but it's not bad. I think partly due to the weather, just getting warmer. Nothing of any significance. Although we've had a couple issues with, and it's not the kids obviously, with adults drinking and some drug activity, but it's good that the public calling and reporting it, so we're getting over there and getting that out of there. We're still trying to have a presence there, you know, so just for the safety and because of the weather change. So we've been out there quite a bit, 17, 18 times on our own. Zarazoti, it's been pretty consistent. We're having a little bit of a problem in the barbecue area. I mean, I'm sure Sophocles knows we're getting quite a few calls for service, so trying to look at coming up with a solution. It's in the barbecue area, in the north end of the park, people complaining about drinking. So we're working on trying to come up with a solution, but it has increased quite a bit for there. Cliff Vista Park, we don't get a whole lot of calls, not a lot of activity. And then Libby's been pretty consistent. And with the weather change too, some of the, what's a good way to put it? Some of the regulars are back in the park, so you know it's increased our efforts. We're aware of it, and I guess that's what I want to let you know is that we've noticed it. We're aware of it. As we get closer till school getting out, we're going to be putting out a few extra foot patrols. Try and get one out during the week and on the weekends, and possibly a bike patrol, just to work on Zarazoti specifically and Libby. No issues during the tennis tournament, though. That was really nice. Turned out well. Some of the other things that's going on with the department, we're currently having our Citizens Academy. I don't know if you saw it. We were advertising it. It's in its 4th week. So we started with 20 members, which is really good for us. We're trying to recruit some new volunteers for our volunteer and policing program. So we're holding around 16, 17, just depends on the night, but it's going really well. So it's good exposure for the city and for the police department. I don't know if you guys saw Wednesday's paper, the big burglary arrest out of Miners Oaks.
Yes, on the front page there, yes.
Yes. That was a really good response for us, and we were really happy with the outcome.
Some people haven't heard. Would you just give us a short, brief description of what happened?
Oh, okay. So at
I don't think
about,
everybody saw it.
I think it was about 7:30. Actually, I know the exact time. 7:34 Tuesday morning. We got a call of a burglary in progress at Oak Grove School in Miners Oaks. But a school teacher who actually, opened the door to his classroom. It was I believe it was the English room / music room. But he opens it up, and the room had been trashed. The suspect was in the room at the time. I mean, they made eye contact, and there was some verbal exchange. He bolted back out the window that he had broken to come in. What was really good is a couple of students on campus, along with the witness, the teacher, were able to follow him on foot and get the information out. And our shift change, I guess it's not a secret, is at 7 o'clock. So there was enough of us coming and going, and to get out there. And I would like to, I mean, I don't know if the callers are paying attention, but it was a secondary caller. It was, you know, the combination of the efforts of the original people on scene to call us, to follow them on foot, keep us updated, and then another person who had no idea what was going on in the area where the suspect had ran, saw him and thought, wow, he just doesn't look right for this area, and he's pretending to be asleep, and it just didn't fit right. So he called, which led us to our suspect. And as it turns out, he had a couple of felony warrants for the same activity. He was in possession of quite a bit of narcotics, marijuana, all for sales. And we think he's tied to some other burglaries in the area recently. So we were happy to get him off the streets. So that was a good. You guys all aware of the Amgen race that's coming through town on next Thursday, the 14th?
Yes.
So I've talked with them. They anticipate hitting the city limits right about 1:15 in the afternoon. They should be, that's, their head point of their caravan, should hit the city limits right around there, give or take a few minutes. And then the whole thing should be through here by about 1:35, 1:40 at the very latest.
Okay.
But it is going to create some traffic problems. 'Cause
Yes.
it's shoulder to shoulder road closure, so it's going to limit your ability to move.
What's the route they're coming into town?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, they're coming from Santa Barbara. They're going to come off the 150, make a left at North Ventura Avenue, and they'll come up into the city. Past when they hit Villanova, we'll get involved with helping with traffic control, and then they'll go right through, Ojai Avenue and out the east end of town.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, the other
it's the
direction.
opposite of last time they were here. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I guess last time they came up from Santa Paula, it's the exact opposite.
Well, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, and then the 24th is the Mountains to Beach Marathon, which is Sunday morning. I think this is the second year, or my second year being involved with it. But we'll have road closures. It's Memorial Weekend, but it starts actually Sunday morning around 2 or 3. The race starts at 6 a.m., but it's out of downtown. I want to say last year, for inconvenience sake, they were out of downtown area in the road closure area by 7:30. We were able to open things back up. It wasn't too bad. But there's about 2,000 runners, so it's kind of a neat spectacle. If people want to come out and see it when it gets started, it's pretty impressive to see them get going and move through. Same thing with the bike race. Anyway, that's about all I have. If you have any questions, be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions?
No? Okay.
Thanks so much
All
for
right, you
coming
guys have a
in.
good evening.
You too.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we're up to Public Works update.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Hey, Craig, how are you?
Good. I guess we got the guy.
Do you want this? Do you want me to just?
If you don't mind handling,
Drop it,
when I'm there, I'll
I
just,
can quit.
okay.
You know what? Can I pause you just for a second?
Yes.
Are we going straight really to Libby? Okay, because if we are, we should just.
Oh,
do a
I'm
minute.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay,
This
if we
was the
just wanna
update. I
do-
was going to Libby, not,
Yeah, if you have any general updates,
You know-
if not, we could.
yes,
We
I
could
do.
just do
I
minutes.
will, I'm sorry, I was
No, it's
talking,
confusing, because we have you on here twice.
I was talking to the presenter for a minute there, so, yeah. Okay, I got distracted. Yeah, I would like to mention that the drought, of course, everybody knows it's a big ordeal, and it's in its 4th year here. And that I think each agency, the purveyors, are being required to cut back water. So I think there's been 2 numbers distributed for Golden State Water. They have to cut water between 32 and 36%. It's one of those. So it's a very high number. It's the highest level they have. I think that's based on records that the state has and what kind of savings has been done to date and so on. So we gave a presentation at the council last month, just showing all the water, and primarily, of course, the water uses out at Sarzati, at the playing fields, and we recognize that as the primary fields that have to be sustained in real green. But we're trying to keep them back. We've trimmed it back actually quite a bit out in that area still. So we didn't get the exact numbers. One of these days we'll probably be pushed to do a full comparison of 2013 as a base year towards the other years. And we've cut back at the playgrounds quite a bit. And then we've really cut back, as you know, up at the at North Signal where it hits Grand, that little pocket park. And that one's totally brown and dead. And we've really cut back over at the Lark Ellen little pocket park that's out there. And so and even at the Y, we've got those lawns, which I guess really aren't parks territory, but we've cut back a lot. So we've reduced watering significantly. And I think that pressure will continue. And I think that, I think the grass at Sarzati is going to be our biggest concern, what we can do to try to keep the playing fields good, but maybe separate some of the stations otherwise. For instance, out in front of Boyd's Center, that area between the grass out front is used for volleyball and so on. And the area out back where the CrossFit goes on.
That's where actually
That's where volleyball's
volleyball's
on.
in the backside too.
Mostly in the front, it's like Pee Wee
The front
Sports.
is
and some
little
sports
Pee Wee
teams.
soccer program uses the front mostly.
So we're not really ready to let those go, I don't think. Those have to stay pretty green. So we'll keep working towards everything we do to reduce water. So if anybody has any great ideas on it, we'll be glad to consider them. And one of the issues, we've just had a meeting today at a demonstration at Libby Park, is quite a few of the oak trees, and even, I think it's called, there's a big cypress up in the main park, and there's one behind the tennis courts right by the bike trail as well. And those are, the one back by the bike trail is very stressed. And they say once it gets stressed around this point, we have an advanced master arborist from down in Ventura, this guy, Ed Slowick, who's terrific and real expert at this. And he said, yeah, you really got to get water on that one quick, the one by the bike trail. The one up in the park, get it on there too. But also there's 2 trees. The one that used to have the circular bike rack right by the playground, and that one's, the beetles attacked it pretty heavily. So just today we were in there, and he's got some neat gadgets which clear the roots, blow all the soil and everything. So we were out demonstrating that today and clearing it. And there's another one, it's over, anyways, towards the Lobel Park area there a little bit. And there's a cork tree right above Lobel Park. So all these trees, because of less watering and just they're stressed and the beetles attack them. So we're really going to have to go out there and use these kind of, what do you call the old style sprinklers that just irrigate lawns temporarily and saturate that soil about 12 to 24 inches deep on a monthly basis to help these trees out. And it's hard to do. We did it on a couple of those trees, and it took 3 days, most of the day. We had to keep soaking it, stopping it, soaking it, stopping it. And we even got a little flack about it from some of the community, and they didn't understand what we're doing. So we're going to try to have a little more, some kind of a flyer up on a post out there while we're doing it so people understand. Because in the end, I think it's about saving landscaping, as you've got your highly invested landscaping, which is the trees, and you've got the shrubs, generally medium investment, and then you've got your low investment, which is considered grasses and things that we can let go.
I'm hoping that as this moves forward and there's more discussion about it, I think we should agendize this a little bit to just, as a commission, talk about parks and perspectives on turf and grass. Because I think that as we are asking all the citizens to, basically change your landscaping and not have lawns, I think we don't want to just maintain it at the base level. We really want to maintain it at its optimal level, because it's going to be the available space for kids to recreate on that's lawn. So I'm like that front of the Sarzodi. I think we should be maintaining Sarzodi at an optimal level, because we're asking everyone else to let go of theirs. And I think it's maybe a little bit of a complicated issue, but I'd love to see us as a commission maybe talk about it a little bit as things move forward, if they're going to have to be harder decisions made about recreation areas and where we're going to water and where we're not. It might be worthwhile to have it as a whole discussion, instead of just a little bit at a time, just letting things go. And then on an individual level, at a citywide level, the tree discussion you're just having, as a property owner, I would love the city to have an expert come and speak and tell me what I need to do. As we're going to stop watering my lawn, what do I do for my tree? Because I don't want to jeopardize my trees. Because I think it's kind of confusing for people. I mean, even amongst my neighbors, some people just quit watering, which means they're quit watering their trees, which, down the road is going to be a problem if people are accidentally killing their trees. So I'm thinking and this isn't a parks issue per se, but maybe as a city issue, if there's an opportunity for some education, just like the education you were talking about, having this expert arborist around for all of us out there who are trying to figure out best practices while not having a lawn, but maintaining our large, high investment trees and things like that. That would be great, but that's a different issue.
This arborist is really into education, so he might be willing to even do that pro bono. We could set up a
Okay,
night.
I think
there are a ton of questions people have. Maybe go meet at a park, because as you hang around with these guys, you start just catching on that you can see it pretty easily in these oak trees, that if they're healthy, you see the annual growth, a lot of this fresh, younger growth coming off the oak tree. If they're not healthy, they just don't look it, and you can see they're not moving fast enough. And if you see saps coming off the tree's in stress and it needs water. The beetles will attack the trees where the sap isn't moving, which means it's out of water. And they bring in the rest of the crowd for the attack. And so that's our whole thing now, is to make the water enough to get the sap moving and the beetles move out quick.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting how it all goes. So we'll keep that in mind.
As an individual, I would love to have that knowledge, if maybe the city could put together something for those of us who want to stop watering our lawn but not kill our trees.
Right.
Would we water? Because once a month, because I'm not, that kind of stuff. Anyway, it'd be a great education.
And just learn the trick. A lot of people go out and you figure, I'll just soak right at the
around
trunk.
the base, and that doesn't,
That promotes fungus at the trunk. So really, we're all about do not water within 5 feet of these trees. Soak it for the drip line plus maybe at least a drip line, if not double or more outside of it. That's where all the roots are up at the surface, so.
I think, yeah, there's
all good.
opportunities for some good education.
Mhm.
People trying to do the right thing who could use just a little help.
Right.
But as far as the larger recreation, I really feel like it's important from my perspective to make sure that we keep up like Sarzodi as the hub of everything as well as we can, even that front part, because we're asking other people to get rid of their lawns. So it's a little counterintuitive, but
I think you might come into an issue, though, to where the water company is going to be dictating what you can use and what you can't. So we may want to keep it up, but water company may say, no, you've got to cut this much at that location. So no matter what, we would love it, but it's probably not going to happen.
well, but let's as we do that, let's not do that ahead of time and decide that we have to do that if we don't. Let's try and put out there what would be the optimal situation, knowing that we're getting rid of turf, and then we'll deal with it as it comes, as those mandates come down. It's interesting. I just heard something today that Ojai is in a unique position with its water, and that we don't take any water from outside of our watershed, which
Right.
is slightly different than the rest of most of the state, and it may very much affect the percentages that we're going to have to hold to, because those that apply to the entirety of the state may not apply to places like Ojai, where they're operating within their own watershed and all the water is local. So we don't know where we're going to go. There's a lot to be in this field of water and drought. I think things are moving all the time. So I don't want to preemptively do something that we don't have to do. And I want to make sure that we're really making as much recreation value in that one site as possible if we're going to let go of other stuff.
If I could, just a quick comment. I think you're right. There's a lot of information that's coming out on this real quickly, and you know, I can tell you from some of our discussions with the folks at the state, they're still trying to wrestle with this and figure out what do they do with the state water board's order and all that. We did reach out this week to Golden State. Again, the limits were set by the State Water Control Board. But obviously we got the information from Golden State. The figure of the 36% reduction, we're trying to get some clarification on that, because one of the question that we have is the governor's order is pretty clear that it exempts agricultural use. And what we're curious is when the state did their analysis for the water use in the basin, because they're basing it on a per capita use and trying to get people back down to, to reduce back to where they were, before the drought really got severe, which is why I think they're looking at the 2012 or 2013 year. But the question there is, did they properly take into account that a lot of that water could be going to ag? And if you take that out of the equation, might that change what we need to reduce? But we don't know that yet.
Right.
But we are attempting to get clarification on that. And then secondly, and I know the commission is well aware of this, but just also for the public, as part of the master plan for Sarzadi Park, we will be looking at that as, where we have, how we're using our irrigation, our landscaping, to see if there's some ways that we can be a little more water-wise there. So that will be coming. Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
Okay, and then pretty well related is landscaping up around the Libby Fountain area. We've been trying to spruce that up recently, and there's one area right as you enter into the park when you go under. There's kind of columns on the side, or pilasters on the side, and there's a emblem, a plaque there that says that the Ojai Garden Club planted the area back at the time. So that area, it's still got a couple of rose bushes in it, but they're pretty sparse. So we're looking at sprucing up that whole area, as well as the area, the 4 little pockets around the fountain and the area back towards the pergola, and primarily even that area when you walk up to the pergola and head for the post office. There's that strip on the left-hand side we've always thought about planting. So we're going to plant that as well. So most of it's already planted. Shouldn't really be much increase in water at all. But that new strip, yeah, there's a touch of water. We're being very careful to use drought-tolerant plants. But I think it is kind of a prime entry area to the city. It could look nicer. So that's minor. And then lastly, for the update, I want to mention that the Storytelling Festival was this past weekend. And poor Brian Bemmel, I swear every year, just the heat comes on strong just for the event. I think after the event ended that night, the cold front rolled in. It was cool the next day, So it's just amazing weather change. But we did, if anybody goes by, we had put up the primary shades. We have the 3 primary ones. And then we bought these boots when we did them at the same time. We're calling them a boot. They're the very low side edges that kind of boot in a little bit. And so we're able to, nobody else really wanted them because they do block some of the lighting for nighttime shows. But they were interested in it, so we put it up quickly. So it's not in a fully trimmed out, perfect looking way, but it's up and you can kind of see how they drop quite a bit. We can even bring them way down because it's amazing afternoon sun when you get kind of a 4 o'clock sun. It just drops underneath that edge and it just hits a lot of the seats. Even at I think it was at 12 o'clock, there was still a pretty good chunk on the east side of seats being hit. Only in about 4 or 5 rows, but enough that the schools had brought some easy-ups, and they had them over in that area, and they had spray bottles out and all that too. So at least we've done everything we can, I think, without really taking it and taking it out to special polls and all that kind of thing. So interesting to see. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so approval of minutes. Has everybody got a copy, read them? Any questions, changes?
No questions, no changes.
Okay, does anyone want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of March 4th, regular meeting.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then we have another set for the April 2nd meeting. Any
Move that
comments?
we approve the April 2nd, 2015 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That business is done. Okay, on to discussion items. And the first thing is Libby Park. We just had that little bit of business in there.
Sorry, I jumped to
Sorry
that
about that.
earlier. Okay. Well, thanks. As you recall, the facility committee had met for some time and reviewed proposals for the design build, the community design build playground at Libby Park, which we're proposing to design and do a community build, which means volunteer build this fall. And the facility committee had recommended play-by-design and Leathers both, and then we decided at the Parks and Rec Commission to go with play-by-design, and the council awarded that contract, so we're moving ahead on that. We've got a couple different phases this goes through. Primarily, there's design input, so I'm reaching out to the various commissions this month, and we'll advertise in the paper. We're going to have a night that we outreach to the community as well. So that's on May 27th. And we're reserving the Women's Club, the Ojai Valley Women's Club downtown next to the Bliss yogurt joint. And so we've got that for May 27th that night. The next morning, the consultants will be at Topa Topa School, so they'll go through all the classrooms and they'll get all the input from the kids in the morning. They and that's all set up with the principal, and that's all worked out up there. And then in the afternoon, the consultant goes through and does their design. And then at nighttime, they present that design and review it with the facility. We're talking, I guess I'll talk about that in a minute, about possibly having a design review committee. So then over the next couple of months after that's developed, the community will discuss that concept, and we can have our input on it, and we can actually go through a bunch of iterations. There seem to be no limit, and they're accustomed to that. Comments might be too massive or not like the color or any kind of features on it. So, and it might even adjust for what our budget lands up being in the final numbers. So that goes on for most of the summer, and it gives us a chance to coordinate and get everything organized, volunteers and equipment, food and everything else we need to make this happen for approximately October, November. We're considering the week starting right after the Ojai event, Ojai Day.
For Ojai Day?
There's also consideration to do it just before and have it done in time for Ojai Day. So
Well, that would be fun.
we are mixed on that one. We haven't quite settled in. That's quite a bit down the road at this point. And then so one of the recommendations we'd like your input on tonight would be a design review committee. This month as we get input from various commissions, and also as we hear public input, would be a design review committee. We could use the facility committee we already have, so we have Commissioner Roddick and Ittner on that committee. And I'm sorry, and actually Commissioner Becker's on there too, I think, right? So we've got all three of them, and staff, Steve and Sophocles, myself. So we could make that. They're already very involved in it, so that's one simple approach. And we could discuss different features, and there's attachments on this report which we can review and have some initial input ourselves. But so that was the recommendation. We'd like your input on here, maybe at the end of the presentation. And then later, I think we need to set up a coordinating and steering committee after we get this design day done, which will help us coordinate and move forward through the summer. If we, everything from the, like I was mentioning, the volunteers and the equipment and child care and other things will be needed on the day of the event. So if you can move to the attachments that were included with the report, there is, let's see, attachment number 1. This is something there should be probably a motioned action item on. And you recall that we have the playground that's outlined there. And then we also have just north of it is it used to be a very large tree there.
Can I stop you for 1 second? Does
Go ahead.
everybody have it? Does anybody need it? You need the attachments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we have 2 sets of attachments?
I didn't make extras.
I want a copier real quick.
I've got them right here, Steve,
Sorry.
if you want to.
Oh, if you hand me yours, I have a whole set there. There we go. 2 copies. So 2 sets, I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
know what, and I think I have extras.
Okay. Just so that everyone's looking at the same thing.
Okay.
While he's doing that, can I ask you a question about the May schedule?
Yes.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, how come we decided the Women's Club instead of the Sarasota?
We just did a workshop for the Complete Streets, and it just worked out very nicely. That there's kind of a stage there. It's a nice central place here in town, and Sarasota is a bit more
Have as
removed.
much parking in some way. I mean, it does, but it's across the street. I don't know. I
agree.
I kind of like having it at Sarasota because it's a parks.
I'm sorry. The other part with Sarasota is just booked solid.
It's
That's
booked solid.
hard to
Okay,
get in there.
That was what I was trying to
Yeah.
figure out. If it's totally booked, that's.
Yeah, we
you know.
did look to it first, and then
Okay.
we had the same problem. We did this Complete Streets outreach. We
Yeah.
couldn't find a facility.
I know. You go over there,
So-
and it is a busy, busy place.
Busy, and then this is busy too. So you think of
Okay.
these two.
And then the only other question is, is there going to be, at the open house on Saturday, is there going to be a table for this?
Keep in mind, this is on, I think May 27th is Thursday night. No, it's Wednesday night, I believe.
Oh, no, but for all of this, I'm thinking, are we going to have a table that's going to hand out flyers about each of the upcoming possibilities of getting involved with the Libby Park design? I'm thinking it's perfect timing.
We
'cause
should.
It's all in May.
I'm sorry, you're
and-
saying a table at Sarasota?
At our open
At
house.
Open house
Oh,
on
right,
May
right.
16th, on Saturday, May 16th.
Because it's perfect timing to hit at
Yes,
least all
we
the
are
people who
def-
come
we are
through there.
having
We'll have a
some of
table.
Yeah.
Plans that we've looked at too, just to have different things like that out there so they can see.
We could even take a list of signups of people interested and shoot some emails. I'm just thinking, this is a different part of the project, but from, as far as getting as many people out as possible, that's an opportunity for us to really engage with an audience that's interested in parks.
Right. That'd be great, Sophocles, if we could get some, have a section on the table that would kind of have the playground.
Yeah. Well, we will have a commissioner's table that I think you and Sunday will be at.
Well, we were gonna be there all day, but I'm wondering if if we can have a kind of commissioners can do it, but staff might help too with more specific questions on it, if somebody could be there just to field some questions and get the word out.
I think we should capitalize on it because I know a lot of people have been asking around the community. Hey,
Yes.
when's this kicking off? What are we doing?
When are the meetings? How
And
do
if
I get involved?
People are
Yeah.
going to be there anyways. So we
Are you
have the
thinking a
audience.
survey? Sorry.
No,
Which
I'm
one
just
better,
really
but are
thinking a
you-
huge opportunity to hand out some postcards. Here are the 3 meetings coming up. Please come.
just the
Here's where they're gonna
informational.
be. Here's the times.
Just some info.
If you're interested, put your email down. We'll put you on a list because we're gonna start getting that list together anyway, just to capitalize on the fact that we have an audience.
Exactly. I think
Because we don't always have an audience
Great
that's
time
that.
to move on and try to get.
And very specifically a table just for that. So that, because people, to get the attention drawn. Because if we put it at a table with 3 other things, it's gonna get lost.
That's May 16th, right? May
Yeah,
16th.
Saturday the 16th.
What time is that?
11 to 2, 11
11 to
a.m.
2.
to 2 p.m.
11 to 2. Okay.
Okay.
So we could even have a little outreach packet, almost.
I'm hoping, because
It's what we're doing to the schools, we're sending up front, they get a little area where they sketch it out and get them thinking about it, and I
Okay,
think
and
they'll
then
get their parents
I think it's a great
activated
idea. I mean,
involved.
they could be doing their designs there. If you
Uh-huh.
have the design sheets from Play by Design, they can sit there and design a playground if they want to sit that long and do that. It's another opportunity for more kids to participate. And then my last question on this piece, and then we can move on to the other piece, is we're going to one school, which I think is absolutely appropriate and a great school. It has 500 kids. It's a great cross-section of kids. Are we going, though, to at least send out the design sheets to all of the schools?
We weren't planning to.
I would love to do that because it's just one more point of contact with parents to get them, to grab them into this process.
To
And
only the elementary, you thinking? You thinking K?
yeah, just elementary, because I know that when they
Uh-huh.
go out and do their design charrettes, they're typically doing K through 5.
Mm-hmm. Our trick
Well,
will
we
be to
could just
get
get
somebody we
copies of
can
them too
contact
there.
there who's willing to push it a bit. I think if we just email it over to the principal, it may not move around. We need to,
Well, I think if we do it, if we get it to the district, get it signed off on, which they probably have already done since you're going to TOPA already, and then just get copies and ask them to get it out in their Monday folders with maybe some, like, one side is the design side and the other side is the verbiage about, here are the meetings that are coming up, here's what we're doing, and would you like to design your dream playground? And then they can submit it back to the school and we'll collect them all and submit them to the designers just like we would from TOPA.
they have a Monday folder most schools get.
Most schools have a communication
Yeah.
model either on a Friday or a Monday where they're
Okay.
sending out communications to their parents. Each school is a little different, different classrooms are a little different, even at the same campus. But the quicker we get it to them, the more likely we are to get it in their hands, because it takes at least a week's turnaround typically to get it all organized to get it out.
Okay, so we're thinking Miramonte and Sunset?
No, I was thinking Miramonte, Miners Oaks, Summit, San Antonio.
Antonio, yeah.
And then TOPA, we're going to be there on site, so we've got them covered. And
Okay.
so we'll send them out with some kind of letter. I'm sure Play by Design, I'm sure they have done something like this before. They may already have a template ready to go on the letter and all that, and we just insert when our dates are.
Right.
And then we collect them all and turn them into them.
I think we do need to go to all the schools, all the elementary schools though, because there's plenty of people that live in Miners Oaks that go to San Antonio Elementary School too, you
Yeah.
know? And
Topa.
exactly, yeah, and they won't get caught in that Topa meeting.
No, they,
So-
yeah. And I think as much as anything, it's an engagement piece. It's
Yeah.
to get
It's
them
for the
drawn
whole.
into the, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, if we can do that, I would like to see that too. I mean, I think it would be a great opportunity to, and, you know, maybe we could go as far as if somebody is truly interested, have them send a representative from their school the day that they're over at Topa.
Well, I don't think that works because that's a very specific process for that day, but there are 2 other meetings they can attend.
No, I'm talking about the kid.
Oh, I don't think it'll work I mean, that's a huge school and they've got a tight schedule to get through all of those kids as it is, but they can come to the other meetings and they can turn in their own personal design they've come up with details.
I think we should at least float it to the Play by Design and, you know, hey, we've got 4 of the schools that
Exactly.
we at least want to get some info from. We don't necessarily need to
We don't
go
need
to
to
the
go
school,
there.
but how do we do that?
Mhm.
I'm sure,
They have a
I'm sure you're
solution.
right.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have done it before.
The biggest thing for us would be to get a contact at each school, which can't say we have, who's willing to say, hey,
I will help you with that.
okay,
Yeah.
great, and that we can push it,
I can
so.
get you the contact at San Antonio.
I know, I got
and
TOPA,
Summit.
yeah, you got 2, I've got, TOPA's already handled. I can do Miramonte and Miners Oaks.
Okay, terrific,
Perfect.
yeah. I mean, it might be a great way to engage the parents too, so we'll try to
Yep.
get them, maybe we'll try to get a volunteer sign-up sheet in there, what you're interested in. Are you interested in helping this and that and
Hopefully, like,
that?
one side's the design side, the other side's the back side that captures their information if they want to participate in their contact information.
Mhm.
And then it also lays out all the meeting dates. So
Something easy, yeah.
yeah.
Something for them to refer to, put on the old kitchen.
Sorry, I have another, before we keep going, I have another question regarding the May 27th meeting. What are we doing to promote that? I know you'd said we're taking out an ad in the paper, but are we,
We're gonna do ads in the paper for probably 3 or 4 before, which will help. Then we'll try to put it on the city's PEG channel. so
Yeah,
it'll catch a few
we'll utilize
people.
all the recreation departments, email blast, Facebook, Instagram,
okay,
you
that was
name
gonna be
it.
my question, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's,
Mhm.
we should, and really pump it.
And this is,
And we're gonna
again,
have it at the open house too.
open house.
We'll have it at the open
Mhm.
house, but we'll
Okay.
social
Social
media
media.
it
And then
To
and
death.
then-
anytime to death.
and then getting
Okay.
this
Sure.
out to the
Nausea.
schools is the other piece.
Right.
We'll get a sign at Libby Playground too, which would be a good place for it.
Okay,
Maybe,
great.
maybe even a sign, I don't know if we want one over at Sarzati
I
as
think we
well.
Sarzati
should
would be
do one
great,
at
yeah.
Sarzati Playground too, yeah.
Uh-huh,
Okay.
okay. Yep, that is tricky to get that outreach to really, any of these meetings, I mean, we really worked hard for that Complete Streets workshop, and the final night, we had 3 days in a row, and then we had the final night, and there was probably 50 people there.
That's
That was,
great.
that was highly unusual, but,
I have one more question about the advertisement. I don't know if this is too much, but I know we've had banners across from the, the tower to the arcade. if that's.
I think the rec department takes up a fair amount of those each year, and we could probably grab it for a week, you know?
I don't know, they're controlled by the Public Works Department,
That's
so.
right.
Yes, we are. We get 4 weeks out of the year, and that's not one of our
And you
weeks.
book in advance.
If you don't have a week this month
But
at all.
I'm sure we
you
could
could
check
share.
the schedule and
We're-
see what's available.
We'd be more than happy to,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's a great
That's a good
idea,
idea,
because you drive through there and everyone will see
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's even, I think the police department had offered, they've got a new banner printer that's all paper, but we're only talking for a couple of days. So if you guys want to, if you've got a week this month and we want to give a couple of days,
Where we have our banner up now for this month.
We'll
so
just have to
it's,
check with Public
we
Works
don't-
and see
yeah.
if there's
Oh, it comes down
availability.
Check with
Monday
PW.
morning. Yeah.
Yeah, it comes down
Yeah, we
Monday
were open
morning, and
house
then we
up
don't
there.
have anything till August.
Well, kind of a guerrilla banner, I guess, right? That's an idea. Okay, so,
We'll check.
yeah, all right, so the outreach is great. So I think between all that, you're saying the schools, the papers, the signs at the parks, and then it gets pretty thin after that. Yeah, like you're saying, all the approaches that way. And we'll try to, we know some people are on the Ojai Community Facebook page. Is the rec department on there? Ojai Community Facebook page?
I'm not sure. You mean as a link? Or
Rec department has their own.
That you can put
We
your
have
own,
our own. We have our own Facebook page.
right. I know a lot of people on that community Facebook page, they put different activities going on.
They post stuff, okay.
It seems to be the most active thing I hear
You
about.
post it on the rec one, I will repost it on the
Okay.
community network.
There you go. Are we reaching out to all the service clubs specifically and personally, like with a postcard or something?
Yes.
Okay, so the service clubs will all have a personal invitation to all of this?
Mhm.
Okay, good. Just checking.
Yeah, we're in communication with some already. They've
Okay.
volunteered, but it's important. I think sometimes it's all a big rush trying to get all this done. So yeah, we'll make sure. I appreciate
Okay.
the reminder. Yeah. The Lions Club. In fact, I'll be at the Lions Club meeting next week talking to them.
Great. I know you're in contact, but just that last, here's the specific dates. We really would love to have you.
Seems like the two Rotary clubs and the Optimists were
Optimist,
interested,
Lions, yeah.
and other groups outside of that. Lions, Rotary, Optimist,
Lions, Rotary, Optimists.
Ohio Civic
I
Association.
don't know. If
we've
anyone
talked
wants to be included who's watching, please shoot us an email and we'll happily
Right.
include you.
Let us know.
Yeah, there's one group that was formed to build the bleachers at the Nordhoff High School, right?
Like a boosters club over there?
Wasn't it called the?
Oh, the whole stadium, when they did the stadium.
Well, I think it was all, I don't know.
That was
I
a
wasn't
long
here at the
time
time, but it was Civic, not the Ojai Civic, but a different Civic.
Civic, okay.
Maybe the Ojai Valley Tennis Club, possibly. I mean, it's
For the bleachers?
sort of. Oh
No.
no, I'm back
Should
for
also
the actual
Touch
playground.
base
You know, if
with
they
all
want to be
schools and all
involved.
those parents.
Right.
They do have a lot of
TOs.
people with expertise in construction or the like.
Okay.
When we're doing schools, that's a great point. We should contact all the PTAs and PTOs
Okay.
at the same time,
And whoever we contact at those schools, we can ask them for those organizations.
or all of them have a box there. So if you
Yeah.
leave a note, we can,
I'll need help with that too. I don't know how to
Okay, I'll
contact
happily
PTA,
help with that,
PTO
too.
and all that. Yeah, so, okay.
San Antonio and Summit.
yeah, and I can figure out the others.
Okay.
I'm on one of them.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, so we'll do the best we can, get all that input. And I think a lot of it's just getting everybody involved and invigorated on the whole
Mm-hmm.
concept, getting some
I know people are
enthusiasm.
excited.
There you go.
You've already seen quite a bit of it, yeah? I
Oh,
heard.
Oh,
yeah.
People are asking
Huh.
questions.
I was at the Dino Dig at the Place to Grow on Tuesday, and I had probably half a dozen people ask me about it.
Oh, really?
Hey,
Okay.
when's this kicking off? So
Huh.
everybody's really excited about it.
Good, good. And that, yeah, okay, we'll get it moving.
Ah, it's raining. Yeah.
Are you going to open it to the audience
Well-
at the end, or?
Yeah, would you mind waiting till the end, but we'll happily answer a question.
So anyways, we can move on to the attachment. Attachment 1 is the one I mentioned, outlines, there's a curb around the existing playground, and that curb has got to, breaks through the middle, and that's, part of it is the 2 to 5-year-old area to the south, and then the area to the north is the 5 to 12, that's the older area. And then just on the north side of that, there's no curb, but it's a mulched area with a small valley oak, I think, in it. There used to be a big oak there, and I think that's the one that all the fuss went on back around 2000 about the tree, whether it should be removed or not, and it was removed. So it's a pretty big area, and you can see it on this aerial photograph. And I'm sorry, I thought we had one that outlined it, but I guess this one doesn't. So this one, so you can see the playground, and then as you head towards the Ojai Avenue, there's that tree, and there's a fence right around it, a little U-shaped fence. So we could take a chunk of that to the south, and it adds around, I think it was close to 1,500 square feet or so. So we could expand there a little bit. So some people are opposed to expanding the playground period because it was meant to be Oak Grove in Libby Park and you're expanding, but it's not moving towards the Grove at all. It's in the opposite direction. So that's a possibility. If we need more room, we could go over there, or if we wanted to expand the playground a little bit. So I think that's a sensitive area, and it's a good one. I don't know if it can be discussed here at the end of our discussion, any recommendations or not, or open it up.
So as to footprint is one of the items, okay.
Yeah, and then secondly, I really, Sophocles, can you go to the second slide? Or I can take it.
Yeah. So, thanks.
Yeah.
So,
and I think this is kind of a good one too, because this was even brought up with the facility committee a little bit. So this is a shot from out on the street. And because the pergola is something in the range of 12 feet high plus with all the wisteria growing on it, from looking anywhere out at the arcade or the street, you're looking and it blocks everything up high. So you're looking at an angle where it'd be very hard to see anything in the playground back there. You can see it through it, and you can actually see it if you look just to the right of the arch into the pergola. You can see a touch of the playground in there. So I think the height of that is labeled on the next drawing, and it's something like existing height, I think around 12 feet or so. Let's see, the higher points were, yeah, I think they were about 9 on the lower sides, but then there's higher equipment is up around 12 feet or so. So that's about what you see right now. Now this is the cross section. I thought this would just be helpful to keep in mind that what else is in the background and how high would something get before it impacted the post office. So you get a feel for the tower. The bell tower is about 62 feet tall, and then the building itself is that grade background. That goes pretty far back there, right to the beginning of the playground when you look at it from the side looking directly east. And so that's labeled at about 19 feet tall. And then you can see the playground. And there's a lot of, that's roughly accurate tree heights throughout there. They're really vary, but they're in that rough height. I think they're around 30 foot. That one in the front was closer to heading towards 40 feet. So I just thought that's a little bit helpful to put it all in perspective where it's at and what size and dimensions it's at. So I think, the design packet and everybody's outreach and so on, when they start talking about it, I think it seems to be the first thing I've heard is this thing going to be massive? Is it going to overtake the post office and the bell tower and all that? It would have to be pretty big to get anything close.
If you were to add one view to this, though, I think a nice view would be from Signal and Ojai Avenue back, because that's the direction you're really going to see it. When you're looking back toward the pergola through the big arch there, that's where you're really going to see more of the massing, I think, from the street.
Or are you saying, I'm sorry, Signal at Ojai, or are you saying down south? Okay.
From the direction that this one is taken, it's the least impactful direction to look at the height of it.
Kind of where you stand at the crosswalk and look over that way?
But where you stand and look over that way from that side of the arcade, you're going to see, that would be a nice perspective to have, because I think there is where you're going to have a much more impactful feeling of the massing of the actual structure.
Correct. Right. Okay.
I think
My
that's a
gut
great
feeling
shot
is that
from
the
this
post
direction,
office will
but-
block it. You won't even barely see the playground, but.
Well, but as you
maybe
look
you do.
through the big arch that's right there, that's in this picture at that end, that is where you're really going to see the height. From my perspective, looking down. I think this is a good shot, and it shows you how from that direction, you're not going to see a large massing from this perspective, but it would be nice to have the other perspective shooting that way to see what it's going to look like that way.
Because of the angle, when you're down at eye level and you look at the pergola and you're projecting up, it would have to be crazy high. It'd have to be up in the 50-foot range to see it. So, we can do that on this. I think that really is to scale, so you can almost do.
But it would be great to add that to the packet next time,
Right.
because I think that is the concern more from that side than from this side.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that anyone's particularly concerned from this perspective
Right.
that we have in front of us.
Okay. Okay, so we'll add that, and I think that'd be a good one to put in this packet, the outreach packet.
Yeah.
So everybody's talking about it, and you say, oh, you mean that or that?
Right. So it's just so you have both sides, so you can talk about it.
And that's what, the next shot then is inside the playground, and that's probably where it's most noticeable, because you do have all these high trees. I mean, all these trees are up in the 30, on the lower trees, probably have 25-foot trees, 20-foot trees, all the way up to 40 to 50 on some of the bigger oaks. So they're all around it, and that shot on the top, the big landscape view kind of shows that. And then if you look from another perspective is the one down below it on attachment 4 is with the fountain up front. And right now it's pretty hard to see the playground back there. It's tucked in pretty mildly. One of the differences most likely, I think everybody's gone to more earth tones. So this one is the bright colors, and I think that was a complaint when it came out, was who picked the colors and all that. So this would be an opportunity to go to earth tones if that's what everybody thought was ideal. And the concept is all the custom-built part is to use recycled lumber, and that all comes out. It's kind of, wood chips and so on mixed with recycled plastic. And so most of that is kind of natural colors as well.
Greg, I got a question on attachment 4, for the Libby Park view from inside the park.
Mm-hmm.
That it shows that area back there where the playground is. Is that one area we were talking about that you wanted to expand out into? Is that anywhere on here? It's not like this one oak tree that's right here, or whatever this tree is right here in the green.
You mean right between the two pilasters and the
Yeah.
fountain? Yeah, it's almost directly behind the fountain.
Okay.
These
so-
perspectives are all heading toward the west.
Looking
Varying
west.
degrees, but they're facing west.
Right.
Because you'd need an east-facing perspective to get any feeling for that
I would like
space.
to see this area right in here, what it really looks
Right
like.
over here.
So a perspective on where the oak tree was lost, that's just the wood chips.
Right.
And actually a perspective from that into the playground as it sits now.
Yeah. Yeah, because if this is area that we can use, then I would say that this would be a good idea to probably go into this area and maybe take away some of this area that's over here.
On the back end, on that kind of weird
Yeah.
little leg down there. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, but
Yeah,
yes.
but.
Well, that's what we're looking for is input. Yeah, I mean, so that's the lower area is called the 2 to 5 zone, and there's a curve that separates it.
I agree with you. I think the other thing is there's lawn right there.
Yeah,
So
that's
you're-
just, I wanted to make sure that lawn, if we can't make lawn, then let's put in turf. You know, if we can get somebody to raise aquaflow or something, maybe could raise us a little bit of capital for, but something in there to where people can go and sit, picnic, back in there too. I mean, we should absorb this area here and maybe cut this area, this little dog leg down here.
Off. It looks a lot nicer to me to make that, that shape with it, just
And we could just flip the 5-year-old up towards the front.
toward where the lawn is.
Yeah, but I don't wanna,
Depending how our funding all comes together, we might want to save certain features and repaint them. Those are certain things you can do to really save money.
Exactly.
For instance, that swing, which of course is pretty much in the center of the area we're talking about if we expanded an ideal, or you could keep the 2 to 5 zone.
I would say that it would only, if we've got stuff back there that we want to save and retain back there, that's fine. I like more getting this over into this one area and less getting out of this one area over here. But that's just my opinion.
Right.
So.
I mean, most people, these playground experts agree that the 2 to 5 zone, all the kids want to get out of there quick. I think we've all talked about that. They want to get up to the older kids' territory quick. So, that's for cost savings. You could leave the 2 to 5 zone, repaint it, and I mean, they love that tire swing that's out there now and the spinner and those different
Okay,
features.
well,
So
just
it really depends on how.
Our current
That's one of our
situation-
tricks we have is we're trying to get. We have a pretty good amount of funding from the city, and we did request support from the Ojai Civic Association. At this point, they weren't willing to support it. They're saying that there's different concerns they have. They felt like Sarzati is probably the more appropriate place for a new playground. So I tried to explain how we got going on this one. But after the fact, after they had their discussion about it, and that they were concerned about this playground, affecting the appearance of Libby Park. So I think we're going to hear that. And they also felt like, another concern was is that playground really worn out? That was a concern. And it is over 20 years old, which is typical life of the playground. Some respects, it looks good compared to some I've seen, but
Pretty good shape for being 20 years old.
yeah, 20 plus years old. So part of it was all kicked off by the shade, all this approach, and to get ahead of the shade. So at this point, we're pretty well committed to the playground, and I guess I'm still hoping that we can address a lot of those issues and get support. If we don't, we'll have to see what else we can do, possibly going out and for community fundraising. I'm not sure how that would work.
Can I ask you what?
I think we should do that anyway.
But when we're talking about the tot area, as I'm looking at this layout that we have now, that's on the, if you're facing north, it's on the east side, is the 2 to 5.
It's that little boot you're talking about.
Well, I think were you talking about there?
Oh, I was talking
Yeah,
about-
we weren't talking about that. We're talking
Oh,
about
I'm sorry, I'm
the
talking
long
about this
piece, that's what I
lower
just wanted to
dog leg
clarify.
looking thing down
That
as we
goes-
get deeper into the
That
park.
heads south,
I see.
on the southwest edge, that little
have a-
straight piece that has
have
the
it here.
tire swing that everyone loves, but you could possibly move. down there with the tire that spins, that piece down there.
Okay, so the piece on the south, this little chunk here, right?
Yes.
Just,
Yep.
and I wouldn't say all of it would have to go, but a little bit of it, that seems like it's, maybe we can reutilize this area down here for something else, so.
Yeah, you can't see the curb on there, so we'll try to make sure. that
Yeah,
we
because there's
add
a
those on the
sandbox,
plan.
and that's about where the curb is,
Mhm.
below where the swings are, which are not easy to see on there, because it curves around.
Well, then
Yeah.
that's probably not.
It curves like, I would say, right about there, which is not helpful
Never
to
mind
anyone
then.
else, but.
It sounds like
Right.
it would be
Well,
more.
no, but I think what you're saying is, what I heard you saying is that maybe you absorb where the wood chips are, make
Yeah.
the 2 to 5 there, make the big kid playground partially where it is.
And
but
that would
constantly move it
probably
over.
come up with this company. They would probably come out and look at our area and say, oh, gosh, they may have a total
Nicer to make a
different.
nicer space out of it than that.
They
weird
may
little
have a
right there.
different whole objective.
Yeah,
when
but-
they get going.
As we're discussing footprint, that was one of the questions, so.
The swings are probably an easy thing to keep. If you keep them in the same location, that's super ideal.
Yeah.
If you had to move them, that would probably be all right as well. But those are, you can save pretty good money by just refurbishing them.
Okay.
So
And the
we'll-
swings
that's
are
what we're
nearer
gonna
to
have
the
to
edge
do.
of that, too. They're in the upper part, but nearer to the curb edge, so.
So I guess that kind of discussion, about the height. I know that up front, there was a lot of interest, and I got to admit I had something to do with that, about maybe trying to, a lot of these facilities, you go in and they've got a first floor and a second story. And everybody talks about it, the Soul Park, that the Rocket is the super popular. That thing goes up like 4 or 5 stories. It's
Oh, yes.
crazy high, right? So, but if you did that, you're getting up to about, I think the height might approach just over 20 feet. And so it's not really, when you look at these cross sections, not that high. And there's even a little bit of the whole Libby Park slopes down a little bit from the pergola. It drops down, not huge, but a couple, 3 feet as you get over towards the playground. So it's dropping down. There's a lot of trees protecting it. If you use natural colors, maybe it's not an issue. And that'll be the advantage of the design. They can go ahead and sketch it all out and give us different perspectives and keep going through iterations like that. So I guess any other any other input or ideas on it are
So
appreciated?
You were looking for feedback on footprint. Was there and
Footprint.
color, you were saying, I think?
Color, yeah.
And
Mass.
mass.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've had somewhat of a discussion of footprint. Does anybody else have anything else they want to discuss about footprint? Any other comments? I personally think keep it the size it is, not bigger. As a piece of the park, I think I don't want to take up and make it more prominent, because I think Libby is so many things. Like Sarzodi is strictly recreation. That is a recreation center, and all of it happens there. I think there I don't have as many concerns, but with Libby, we want to make sure that we're balancing all of the uses there, and that no one thing overtakes or looks bigger or out of scale with the other stuff. So from my perspective, I think keeping it the size it is and not getting bigger would work better for me, from my perspective of how I would like to see the park. So that's my comment on footprint. Any other comments on footprint?
I just think we utilize the space we have, or
Right.
if we move out a little bit, then we move out. It's gonna be basically on the design that they're gonna come up with. And, I think, Greg, you can make sure that everything is gonna, if we need to span it out, or if we need to turn it or something, I have no problems with that. I don't even have a problem with a 2-story structure, as long as we don't exceed, 20 feet. You don't want anything, I wouldn't want anything out there that's real huge like that, but, something to give the kids, whatever they need out there. It seems like this park, from what I've seen, this park here seems to be used more than our other parks. And, a lot of out-of-town people are there. And that's where they go. They don't go to Zarazoti Park. And it's a shame, because Zarazoti Park has so much to offer out there too. We're gonna work on that. But I think right now, the families and everything go to downtown to Libby.
Well, except for when you're there and there's 3 baseball games and a soccer game.
No,
And
no.
that park is full of little kids. It's full a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Because just for the sheer fact that you're there for other things and younger kids are there, it's a very busy park over there too.
It is. It's very busy, and of course, the 10 weeks of summer camp. It's a captive audience, and we've
Yeah, your
got
summer
lots
camp,
of
that's
kids
right.
out there.
Yeah, it's a very busy
so
site.
It is very busy.
Okay, so footprint, I think we've covered that. Color comments on color?
Not the current colors.
Yeah, right.
I think if we talk about the recycled materials, it's naturally going to come in something more of a natural color.
Exactly.
And I think then in turn, if it is a little bit taller, bigger, whatever, it's not going to be the eyesore that people think it is, because it's not going to look like a circus from Ojai Avenue.
Yeah,
So
this deal of multi-colors and stuff, I mean, that probably was something. We want it kind of to blend into our Ojai, our color scheme of Ojai too.
And I think it will, and I think once we talk to some of the other commissions, the Arts Commission, and then you have a lot of the community out, input as well. Ojai's a very artsy community. I think, some of that'll play into it as well, though.
But generally looking to blend into the environment versus draw attention by color. I mean, because those old playgrounds,
Definitely.
a lot of what they did was color.
Yes.
A lot of the play value was in the color, which
Correct.
is,
You look at a lot of the new ones, and they are very much more natural, earthy tones, so.
Have we talked to the Arts Commission about the color?
No, it's coming up pretty soon here.
next week? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know.
A week after, sorry.
Okay.
2 weeks from today.
All right, so any other comments on color?
And there can be a little color, keep in mind. You can paint certain parts of recycled features. They tend to do that if you want to, they like to focus on some neat feature of the area, whether it's the plaza or the bell tower or the Chopatopa Mountain. You can do
Orange
some
trees.
feature that maybe imitates it and reminds people about the area.
Exactly.
So that might take paint. And sometimes people do mosaics as a little
Has a
entry
strong
area.
opportunity for art component, which I think is wonderful.
Mhm.
And it's part of their process, which makes it even better. Okay, so massing, we kind of have talked about massing. Any comments on scale?
Personally, I'm not opposed to it being bigger, but I do agree that it needs to be tastefully done.
Yeah, that,
I agree that it does see a lot of traffic. It does see a lot of out-of-town traffic, a lot of tourist traffic. And I think, it would be nice to have a nice, big, well-done play structure that kind of exhibits Ojai. So, I mean, if you go there on certain Saturday afternoons, that place is packed
Busy.
with little kids, that the play structure is not big enough as it is. But that could just be that it's not functional
Yeah, I
enough
think
as
you
well.
it's how you're
So
getting
that'll
your
be
play
different.
value.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think
So
it's,
That'll depend on how, how it's lined up or designed out as well, so.
I totally agree with Adam. I think that's the way we should look.
Yeah, and I think it's less for me totally, I mean, I am concerned I don't want it too large because I don't want it to draw too much attention to one focal point in the park because I'm looking at the pergola and various different things that are going on and wanting to keep it in scale with that. And I also really believe these are good designers and that play value isn't based on height for them. I think they can make great play value whether it's really high or low because I think they're good at what they do. So I'm most concerned with getting the great play value out of it and making it the right size to fit all of the needs. And the other part is too, is I'm super excited about it being unique to Ojai. I mean, there are so many things to play off of here that we could include to make it really
Are.
a part of our community. And then I think we're already well on the way. We've got a historic preservation committee that's quite active. We've got our arts commission that's quite active. We have lots of resources to help us get there, so.
I think the problem in HPC was it met after the meeting. They're meeting very late in May after this meeting.
They had a meeting, they had to change a date and then it,
Yeah, is that what happened?
I
was
think they
thought-
did, didn't
yeah.
they? Yeah, they had to change a date and
I
so.
think- We'll still get their input, and I think it. yeah.
And maybe we solicit their comments as individuals for the history portion to help us fulfill that kind of requirement, because the designers asked for history. And who better to give us some history on the Ojai Valley than the members of that commission? And I'm sure so maybe we seek them out individually just to give us packets of information that they'd like to see the designers have.
Another great resource is David
Is he on there or is
Mason.
he? Yeah,
I don't know if he's on there or not, but David's
He's not on there.
got
He
a
would be
lot of
perfect.
history for Ojai.
yeah.
Is he not on HPC? It sure seems like he. I
He's
forget.
there a lot.
He used to be.
Yeah, he was the museum representative, and he is no longer, but he still pretty frequently attends the meetings. But we know how to find Mr. Ojai if we need to.
Yes, and he's the perfect contact.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could tell you, I mean, he's a great resource.
And he can give us some images too, because he always has some good stuff. All
I
right,
think
so,
we were just at that quickly when we were at the women's club. In the restroom, they actually have a great picture on the wall of downtown Like, it's almost from that perspective I took, but the bell tower's being built, it's got scaffoldings all around and everything.
Very cool.
1917 shot, you know, so that's a great historic one. Okay, so I think that's kind of the input, and I think as part of this, we were looking for input on it, and I guess that's what we have on the boundary.
And
And
before
receive
we're done,
presentation.
would you like to come up and speak?
It's okay.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
And lastly, should we go with the facility committee being the design review? Should we stick with that, or do you, I guess that'd be 3 of the commissioners, or do other commissioners?
I don't have a problem with it unless somebody else would like to serve. I've been there, so I think it would be good to work it all the way through, but it's up to what the board wants. Or the
Who
commission.
else would it be? Would it be just this body?
Well, I think up front, we're saying to try to grab this input, and then when we meet with Play by Design, they'll get the community input that night before,
Uh-huh.
and then we can meet with them after. I'm trying to think of,
Is this, let me help for myself, trying to organize my thoughts. Is this to help provide them with the information that they need ahead of time?
yes.
Okay, if it's that, I would love to ask for a representative from Historic and from Arts.
Hmm.
Because this is to front load the process, right?
Right.
Okay.
I
think
mean,
it
very
would be
quickly,
nice-
right? It's when they get
Yeah,
here, because they don't, yep,
Get them up quickly to speed, but we only present one piece of the puzzle.
right. It's just the night before.
I totally agree with that.
So,
So when the designer's working on it, they're keeping in mind, they don't get too far off. They've got these parameters, you know, what's the size, height, color, and do we want to work on historic type things? So
I
that's true, yeah, to
I
put them
think
in the
that would
committee.
be nice. To ask each of
HPC and
those
Arts, yeah.
committees if they have someone who'd like to represent.
Mm-hmm. So HPC and Arts, that might be a good way to go.
I mean, I don't know, maybe, I don't know about planning. I don't know how that fits into the whole picture. I know that Historic gives us the history, and I know that Arts will help us because we're going to have an art project, so I don't,
I'll bring that up when I meet with each of these
Okay.
committees, but HPC will be the one we'll have to reach out to separately.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So who are we going to have on from this commission?
Well, I'd still love to do it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
What about
So
you?
we would keep our facilities committee together and then add some people?
One away?
Or do you want fewer
Yeah, I
people
think-
than that?
This is one of my.
Well, I don't want to
Meetings,
overload it too much from the Park and Rec side, I'm just
no,
thinking.
it's
So
my
I don't know
turn.
if we would want to go with just
So-
1 or 2, or if we wanted to have all 3. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, you're not
I just didn't want to feel the other commissioners like they're outgunned.
Well, I
For lack of a
understand that,
better
but I
term.
think at the same time, we've followed it through the whole time, so we have.
Sure, okay. I just want to throw it out there.
I think this is one of my last meetings,
Okay.
so if
How about
somebody
2 of
else,
us?
you know.
Okay.
That'll be fine, and then we can add the other individuals. I think that'd be
I
great.
think that would be a very productive.
I'm
I
still
think that
willing
sounds like
to
a good mix.
join along. It's just this is the end of my term, and
Who's moving on to college?
yeah. So other
Does that mean there's another student rep coming on immediately?
There'll be an
yeah,
opening.
we'll have to look for somebody.
I don't think they've opened it yet. and-
I see.
Yeah, but I'm still willing to join and be part of that
Okay.
Okay.
if I can.
Yeah, sure.
So, but that has to happen that's going to happen on the 27th then?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you could reserve
The 27th.
27th, yeah.
So calendar 27th, do we have a time, or you'll tell us?
We'll do the public outreach, and at the end, we'll spend an hour.
Okay,
Yeah.
I think you were thinking like starting around 4 o'clock or something?
Yeah.
okay.
It says roughly 4 to 7.
But we'll confirm
I
that
think the
with
public
you.
will be 4 to 7 maybe, and then we'll go 7 to 8 for the meeting with just the design review committee. And we might even have that open. I don't know. It's so hard to judge how much input we're really going to get on this thing. If we're really going to have a lot of people there, if they're just more excited about the build week, you know.
I would
about-
have to say, I think this might be better to keep it a little tighter, because that gives the designer more of an opportunity to
Well, no.
really
Yeah,
pull
the
knowledge
public
from
will
their-
always be
from their
open,
experts.
sure.
And then you can come back with all of it. It's not a matter of
Yeah.
hiding it, but that's for them to just really ask those detailed questions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. If you know anybody in the community who's very pumped up and would like to help out on this, we'd like to hear and get everybody involved. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Where are we? We are on to,
Whoever tells you, but good job.
I never tell them that.
all right, we're on to the
I just give them strife.
CIP.
So this is back, and I know the commission has discussed this a few times, and we included, it's both in the minutes and also in the staff report, just the ranking that was given at the previous meeting. I think what we're hoping to do tonight is, as much as we can, if the commission is comfortable, to try to settle on some type of a recommendation to the city council on what you'd like to see for, at least for the certainly I would think you would want to make a recommendation for what projects you would like to see funded next fiscal year, and then we could probably go out a couple fiscal years out from there. Unfortunately, we're still putting together all the pieces on the budget. I was hoping that we would have the draft CIP plan ready. We have a rough draft of it. I should say we don't have the actual. Let me back up. We're passing out the draft budget to City Council next Tuesday, so we're putting the finishing touches on that. But
Could we possibly get that before it goes to council, to take a look at our end of it, just our portion?
well, we were going to try and go through it as much as we could tonight to hopefully get through that discussion.
Oh, okay.
You're asking, can we use the draft tonight, or no?
Well, if I could ask Mr. Grant to pop back up, we were going to try to get into that a little bit here tonight. And I'm sorry, we were scrambling to try to put this all together here, so,
I'll distribute them.
great.
Yeah. So this is kind of the overview of the.
This is next year's, what we have for CIP at this point,
Yeah, this is a,
which is what you're looking for input on.
that's correct, right.
I'm sorry, I've got mine.
No, I didn't
It's
have
the
my
one
microphone.
it's the one that was in our, that was sent out, right?
No, this is different. It's a different organization. That was, well, go ahead, sorry. I'm
No,
interrupting.
That's all right. Well, Greg, could you kind of go through this, was in terms of kind of what we've got right now, and then just kind of give the lay of the land, and then we can have the discussion with the commission with that information, and hopefully we can get to where we need to go tonight.
So we didn't, right now, this is an initial draft, and I know Steve and I talked, and I didn't get to get everything in here, so this is still the initial draft, and I've got to tweak it a bit based on this input Steve had. So we've, between the budget and grant applications we're underway, we're in a real crunch here at the city trying to get some things done. But you can, anyways, if you look at it, I mean, fiscal year 14-15, right? The fiscal year is always, starts July 1st, and the first number, 2014, ends July or June 30th in the following year. So right now, we're in fiscal year 14-15, heading for the end. So we're in, if you look down that column, I crossed out, you'll see the things were already done in the previous, right? We did the rework of the fountain. We did the sinks at the multipurpose building. We did all the rehab at the Boyd Center. That was primarily in fiscal year 13-14. So 14-15 we're in right now. We're kicking off. You'll see the money under Libby Park being spent for the design. That's the first step of the design work. And then you can see the second step is all the money next year. That one is still in the 300,000 total range, with concern that of our funding. But we have options, but it's going to be tight now.
So this represents not only general fund money, but other monies that you were going to cobble together from other
Right.
places.
We had high hopes that we still have high hopes we can
Yeah.
work something out with Ojai Civic Association.
But just to be clear, so it's not all out of the general fund?
Mhm. If anybody has influence with them, we appreciate your help. So, okay, so we had, so just trying to stay in 14-15, you can see the Libby Bowl shade structure, that was the additional, not the boots I'm talking about, but it was the main shade on the west side, right, that we added. Then we retrofitting the cyclone lights is kind of a minor feature, but all these lights have just been a real difficult maintenance headache for us that are all around the bowl. And then we have the multi-purpose building we just did a new roof on. So next year, we had planned to put out new trash cans throughout all the parks and throughout the city, as well as new picnic tables and benches.
And that's with that AB
That's AB 939 fund, exactly.
funding, which is the recycled,
Yep.
funding that comes
The
from
whole
recycling.
109 or just,
So that is essentially the entire
of it.
funding for that.
Yeah.
That's also backup funding. We could skip all of that and backup funding to
Playground.
the playground if we
That's
had to.
recycled content materials.
Right. Now below that, we've got the fountain area. It's just, around the fountain area, there's 2x4s everywhere, and a lot of those are rotting out and being a trip hazard. So we've got those planned to get replaced, fairly minor, $6,500. The remodeling the restrooms has been bumped ahead, and that one, I would hope also that we might be able to work with the Ohio Civic Association. Originally built those restrooms, I think 35 years ago or so.
Which ones are we talking about? Both? Upper, lower?
Upper Libby.
Upper.
Yep, Upper Libby restrooms. They're in need of a remodel. And so we're hoping we can do that next year. Same thing, that's an easy one to bump. I mean, even I think the commission brought up concerns about the lower Libby. So this remodel includes upper and lower. I'm sorry, yeah,
150,000 is
includes
upper and
upper
lower.
and lower, yeah. And I know that the Ojai Civic Association built the upper ones. I'm not sure about lower. I'd never heard
You
of
go to
it.
the Ojai Tennis Committee, Tournament Committee as well
For
on that
funding.
one, for the restrooms?
No.
And actually
be
the
willing.
festivals as well.
We talked about going to the tennis committee
For the rest.
specifically about the lower ones.
I even think of the upper ones,
All of them.
even
Yeah.
more
Right,
so,
the-
even more so.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the upper ones are used, but
Yeah, we
in general, the lower is
bring
practically all
porta
tennis.
potties in,
Yeah.
so
You've been doing what? I'm sorry, Brian?
we bring in porta potties.
Everyone who
to
has a major
supplement-
event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. For the lower one especially, it would seem hopeful that they could provide extra funding for that, yeah.
So looking at possibilities of funding from the tennis association and from festivals would be worth
And civic.
going after.
Experience so far at the
And
festivals
Civic
is they just
Association.
super hard. When it came to the, thinking the music festival, they had, they're always, I think they fund through tickets, something like a third of the total cost of that. They have to do huge fundraising just to keep the festival going.
It's always worth an ask.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think
We'll
that they
try.
are big users and they're ones that need a different sort of capacity.
Definitely. So, playground, the playground shade is just kind of separately itemized. At one time, Rotary was planning a $60,000 donation. I think at this point, they're at $17,000 in donations, and they've committed that money for sure, and are questioning how much more they'll be able to pull together.
That's for the shade structures?
That was for the shade structure of the playground.
It started that way.
It started, now it's
Now
gonna go
it's-
into the.
Now it's morphed into, they'd like to just assure we have shade components in the playground, and they're donating the money.
Okay, all right, yeah.
It most likely be integrated. There might be a separate component too. And then we've got the Boyd roof, or there's just some roof repairs there. There is the, that we decided to delay. We were pushing for CDBG, and they allowed the delay for the shade structure at the picnic tables at Sarzati. So that's already fully funded. I mean, we've got Ojai Civic Association very generously donated money to that, as well as CDBG money and then city's money. So that's
That
considerable.
one's just in a holding pattern for the master plan.
Right. So they allowed us to kick it out a year.
And, oh, okay, so in the 15, 16, what would the 103 be going for? Just the pads maybe or something, or?
It's really, what it shows is that because of our fiscal year ends on June 30th, July 1st, it's usually right in the middle of the construction. So you got to take a guess at where it breaks. It carries over. This money isn't locked out one year or the other.
Okay,
This fund, any fund allocated, then this bumps forward.
okay.
So all of that will just move to 16.
Yeah, it'll flux. I mean, we need to definitely get it done next calendar year.
Okay,
That's when they want to see it done.
all right.
And then, so that's kind of it for this fiscal year coming up. And then you can see in the next fiscal year, the rough ideas were to finish the shade structure for Sarzati. The trash enclosure, we'll try to combine that with it for efficiency, have the same contractor do it in the same area. We're talking about the trash enclosure in that north parking lot, having it covered and enclosed. And then we had Field 1 light poles. Ojai Civic Association was, again, generously interested in that one. I guess I don't think we got a full commitment, but they did say they were interested in supporting that. Same thing, there was some discussion, I think, here and maybe at the council meeting about the master plan, about the lighting. They were questioning how the lights are and what type of lights and what kind of glare they cause and all that. So it sounds like it may be mentioned in the master plan. So it's, those aren't too urgent until the winds really blow strong.
Until they are.
Yeah, that's exactly. And the outdoor basketball court's kind of starting that year and the next year, assuming the master plan identifies it and we come up with a location for it. And then we had Daly Park. We were going to do signs and tables. It's not a high priority one, and it might get bumped out depending how the funding works out.
Okay, so that's the overview. Now we're tasked with looking at this and looking at the work we did last. Is this where we're going? Are we good, or do you guys want to give us more information before I?
That's it for me.
Okay.
Well, one of the challenging things, and I'm sorry that I don't have more clear information on this, but a year ago, the basic premise was that we were going to try, and again, everybody understands there's no guarantees here. It's all subject to what's happening with the budget and what the council decides every year. But I know, or at least the way that we were approaching this about a year ago was that we were hoping, at least for planning purposes, that we would be able to put about $50,000 a year from the capital improvement program specifically towards park and rec facilities. And then and then also banking on the continued, that we're going to continue to perform better than expected in our recreation budget, which is where we came up with that $40,000 figure, which we think we're going to probably hit or exceed this year. But at this point, it's difficult for us to say what we're going to be able to put in for those future fiscal years. So I don't know, Greg, if I can kind of get your thought on this, because I know we're, to a certain extent, we're chasing a moving target, which is frustrating, but at some point, I think we got to kind of at least, figure at least generally where our bullseye is and aim that direction. So again, I think the commission knows this, but at least for planning purposes, do you think it would make sense, Greg, to continue to use that $90,000 a year figure? Again, everybody knows that could drop to zero depending on what happens with the budget or council decision. But do you think would you be comfortable going forward with that, and would the commission be comfortable going with that? Unfortunately, that's the best information I have at this point in terms of just because we're really scrambling around right now, as Greg knows, to try to.
I think I should mention, yeah, you're saying 90,000 being 50 because the rec fund, and then 40 from CDBG.
No. I'm saying, so.
That doesn't even include CDBG.
Fund 31, which is, everything, and right now it's pretty much what we're trying to put aside from our TOT back into the community. And I know, at least in previous years, we were thinking that we were going to try to carve out about $50,000 a year from the CIP program for Park and Rec. And then our profit, for lack of a better term, from the Park and Rec budget, because we've been able to perform pretty well the last few years in terms of our expenses versus revenues, we've put that figure for planning purposes at $40,000 a year. So that's where I came up with the 90.
Oh, and I think of another 40
the
being,
CDBG would be,
Another 40.
anything that we could
Another
leverage
40.
would be on that, whether it's, CDBG or some other, philanthropic organization or something like that.
right.
So conservatively, would it be good to look at about 110 if you're adding CDBG in?
And I should mention, most of that is already pretty well allocated, the 50 from rec department, and we're having trouble funding all this. So the rec is pretty well allocated into these projects we have right now, and that even the CDBG money is pretty well allocated, right? It's into the shade structure at Sarzati, and it's assumed for the playground
You're
in a
talking about
couple
for
of years.
15-16 or for 14-15?
It's already been allocated CDBG money into that shade structure. That was already granted. This year, HELP is using it, and next year we're thinking we'll start the allocation. I'm trying to remember how that goes. I think it's this year, and next year we'll build the allocation. So it'll be 40 grand per year out of CDBG money. So after 3 years, we'd have 120 towards a really nice playground. If the city matched the Fund 31 with rec fund money and so on, we could bring that up to 240 if the Ojai Civic Association was willing to contribute to that as well. Those are primary sources.
So I think then 90,000 is a nice number to use. We all are quite clear that nothing is a guarantee here. We're just looking forward and planning. And what we're looking at is a list of projects. We have two different lists, the ones we prioritize high to low.
Right.
And then really sent back to say, that's page 2 of 3. It has a 16 at the bottom if everybody has it. And then we have another page 18, which takes some of those same projects and puts estimated costs next to them. And so I think the task that we have in front of us is to look at these and prioritize them and try and fit them into 15-16, knowing that not all of them will make it, but as a commission, what are our priorities? So the things that fit, and picking some of them.
Yeah, and I would suggest maybe going out a couple years out
Okay,
from that,
great.
just so you
So
can
picking our top
get
priorities.
that out to the council.
And then trying to place those on the summary CIP that we have here that's a draft. So we really are looking at two different sheets to put this together.
And I should say, that, you're saying the 110 budget, I think I'm catching a little bit better. I think
we-
the 40
we-
from CDBG and a lot of the 50 from rec fund is pretty well allocated out all the way to the
Oh,
playground.
I see what you're saying.
Right. and
So
I
really,
think-
that
yeah.
leaves maybe
Understood.
like you're saying, the extra funding available from the rec department. It's, so I think all the way. Where's the playground for EC?
Yeah, no, it's all the way into 18-19, is what you're talking about for the CDBG.
Yeah,
Put
it's
it
going
into
to be pretty
place.
tight all the way up
Which
to
is
there.
fine.
So just to be fair, the question would be, obviously,
How important is
the
that?
commission can certainly disagree with this. So, I guess that would be the first question. Do you agree with kind of where we're going in terms of 15, 16? Because, a lot of that stuff is already in motion.
It's in motion,
But
yeah.
again, it's, it's
So
But the departmental savings is, I think, separate, just to throw that back there. That's
the
not even considered in there.
$40,000 that we're looking
Yeah.
at, and then the
Thank you,
50
Greg.
is out of Fund 31, which is to my general fund, is what I'm gonna call, it's kind of out of the major.
It's not-
It comes from the city.
Yeah, it's not general fund, but
Okay,
yes,
but-
right.
Okay, so Fund 31
Yeah,
is what we
we-
call it? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep, that's the capital improvement fund, right?
capital improvement fund,
Yeah.
okay.
So in 15-16, the 109,000 for the picnic tables, benches, trash receptacles.
That's not part of that, because that's out of a special fund, that's
But that
AV.
can also be reallocated.
To the playground
Greg, To
project.
the playground, correct?
Yeah,
Technically.
yeah, because it meets, if we're using the recycled lumber, it meets the
Right.
criteria.
Mm-hmm.
I think is a great idea, but,
Hopefully, we don't need to.
yes, but it's there if we
We need
need it
trash
for
cans.
materials costs, yeah.
They're all pretty beat.
Yes, we do need picnic tables as well.
I had a question for you, Sophocles. We had talked about a water element, and then you were going to reach out to Thousand Oaks, was it?
Well, we reached out to one company in Texas just to get an estimate on what that might cost. But oh, you were saying yeah, I do recall now back
What was the one in?
the one in Oak Park.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't yet.
No problem.
Sorry,
What,
yeah.
what was the cost on the one in Texas? Does anyone remember off the top of their head?
Well, we had 5,000 on the sheet.
5,000
Yeah,
on the
but
sheet,
it was
but
significantly.
It was like.
Was it- okay.
Significantly more
All right.
than that. It was, yeah.
It was
6
really a
times that amount.
question
It was
though
in
of scope.
Yeah, it's very
Right, I know
expensive.
it goes
It was,
all.
yeah,
It depends
was
on what you want. I mean, if you just want a splash pad with
Right.
ground elements, then not as much as getting some of these other prefabricated elements. I can't remember what the total estimated cost was, but it was 30, from what I remember, 30 or 40. But
Somewhere in there,
I
right?
will look back into, sorry that I didn't follow up with
Yeah,
Oak Park.
But they can get, yeah, pretty expensive.
There's a real
Okay, I
range.
was just curious.
Let's just dig a hole. Line it with.
Because the route, my thought process on that was we rated the water element as high on our list last time.
Right.
And my thought is, and this was one of the things I was going to bring up at the May 27th meeting when we started talking about it, is somehow incorporating that into the Libby Park playground. And possibly that extra little
Bump out on the edge.
bump out on the
You're talking
edge
about
that we had
north-
talked
the
about.
northeast,
Then
west
it's
side.
nothing crazy. It's there. The kids aren't playing in the fountain at Libby Park. They're playing in a water element. And if you could reallocate the 109 into the 283, granted the 109 has to go to the recycled materials, but the 283 does not, correct?
These numbers are interesting
Right, I know
numbers,
the
in
numbers
that
are-
not all of those are real.
it becomes
No,
a
I
chess
don't want to
game
say
kind
not
of.
real numbers, but not all, those were, that 283 is also based on
Yep,
monies coming from other agencies.
Of
that's
course.
correct.
Right, so, but I think what the question is how much would it cost to add this? Can we ask the designers, if we were to add that to the scope of work, and that were something that we were interested in, can they give us an approximate cost for
And I
that?
know that's going to go into the whole like community input as well. And if that,
But they might be able to, at least, they've done projects with water, well, I don't know if they presented us with one, but when we were looking at those projects, some of them had water elements in them, so they might be able to address that.
I think we should keep in mind real quick that they're very expensive to put in, to maintain, and they use a lot of water.
of course.
Yeah.
I promise I'll check with Oak Park by the next meeting, but it is a pretty heavy-duty, very nice,
Right.
several elements. I imagine, I'm gonna guess, it's probably in the 80.
I'm sure, yeah.
It's a pretty heavy-duty.
Is it
You think of a backyard pool being 50, 70, right? They're for an average pool.
And
And
I
I
know
think
we've been to
that's-
a few that are, over the top water,
Huge elements, not
that
just
are-
water shooting out of the ground.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
not
We're
just
talking
water,
water
yeah.
shooting out of the ground would even
Just have
be,
little buckets
Yeah,
that
no.
fill.
Yeah,
and pour,
exactly.
and It's
And I know
really
they're
nice.
expensive to
We're going
maintain,
there
but
this summer.
I know, again, the people I've spoken with in the city or in the community that are excited about the community build, that's one thing they ask though too, is, where can we go in July to play in the water that's not the athletic club?
It's a tough one during the drought, though, I think.
well, but.
Exactly, that's the other element,
But can
of
we ask
course.
the question of them, of our
Oh,
consultants? Of
So
our
my-
designers, yeah.
But regarding this list, that was on this list, and I would like to somehow incorporate that into possibly the Libby.
All right, so I think that's We don't have a number.
Of course not.
And,
But I agree, you
I
know,
do
that-
too. But we could do some research, and it's a question we can put out there, and we can put it on there without a number, which I know is not that helpful to the budgeting process, but is relevant to what we're thinking about,
Right.
directions. Okay. Other items, discussion on what's on there, things that we'd like to see on there. We also rated the skate park lights high. And not
Yeah.
all of it, but a portion of it.
Yeah, I think
And
the-
participating in it.
I think the number that was thrown out was maybe trying to do like a third,
Right.
which would put it at about 20,000.
Okay, because the total cost is
I mean, that's an
60,000 for
estimate,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
you know.
And I think the third contribution is fair. I do. And I think, that could be a good barometer for the pump track or the scooter trip park or whatever, if we do a partnership with these other agencies or organizations in the community, I should say.
So I'd like to see that one get on there.
Yeah. And I think the other one we keep talking about is the gymnastics needs. It's in here.
Yeah,
This
it got-
time?
it-
And
it's in
it's, what, roughly
Got it, that's why.
23,000?
The equipment.
Yeah, we finally got the information.
there. That was
Exactly.
Oh, it's here. I have it.
It's like the
somewhere,
second sheet, yeah,
Yeah.
page 19.
Lost it.
probably more to the.
It's on page 19, it's actually the last
Oh, yeah.
page of your
I
packet.
don't know if there's a priority from them. I'm sure there is. But it's, maybe if we do it piece by piece and we don't, it's,
Well,
again,
How many
roughly
items do you have here?
23,000.
Like, what, 4?
Four, but it's,
I would have the staff decide what is the top 1, 2, 3, 4.
right.
Okay, I'll ask them to
And then let's
prioritize.
go from there.
But I think being the popular program it is, we always keep talking
Well,
about how we'd like to contribute to that.
What if we just put a dollar amount on it for them to figure out what to spend it on? And then partnering with their parents
that
group
too.
if it's more than what we're able to give them? Or decide to give them. It's not about able.
Right.
What we prioritize,
Well, it's roughly $20,000 for the whole,
the whole kit and caboodle.
right?
Right.
A little low, but.
So do we stick to the 1/3?
I think on that, I would like to try to see us put half.
A little bit more.
Yeah, 10,000 in
So
there.
10,000 in there and they figure out what
Wouldn't
makes no
disagree with
sense.
that
What makes most sense, and that's what they get.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I like the deal about the third, but this is our own program.
Yeah.
I know we've
We're
talked about it
talking
a
about
lot.
the, yeah, we're talking about the skate park.
Mm-hmm.
That's an organization that they should try to help fund it.
Well, it's actually, by the same token, it's our park.
Yeah.
But I'm
It
just
is,
to-
but it is the city's
Right.
park.
It started in a different way, but yes.
Okay, so 10,000 for gymnastics. Got it. Okay.
Okay, so far, a water element with no cost
They'll be very happy to hear that.
in the Libby project.
Right.
The gymnastics at 10,000 and the skate
Lights.
park lights at 20.
20,
So- Or a
right.
third of the budget, not to
Right.
exceed 20,000.
Right.
It might be a good way to put it.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, we put a not to exceed.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if it's less than that for a third,
Then we,
that's okay too.
I'm sure they would would appreciate the support.
Yeah. So other items?
I know we talked about shade in both at the courtyard as well as,
Which I think are not huge projects.
I don't think
Right.
so either. And
I
it-
really don't.
5,000 on that, right?
I think the other big, the two other big projects I like, or I would like to see maybe, are the ball fields renovation and the sand repaint, refinish the gym floor.
I was,
I think you need to take care of what we have before we start.
I was thinking
putting
about the
more money
ball
into
fields
building.
too, but I think that would be something, well, we could actually put it in there.
After the master plan.
But after the master plan to
Right.
see where it's gonna go.
We could,
But I
yeah.
think
Yeah,
we
you might-
allocate that funds for that, but with
Not all of
the,
this is gonna get in one year, so.
Well, yeah,
we
Right.
might wanna
it
start
might
looking
spread it
forward
out.
and put that forward.
and put this
Ball
out
fields
maybe the
forward.
You
following
could put the
year.
ball fields, yeah, of.
Okay.
year out or
So put
two
the ball
years
fields a little
out.
farther out.
I
All
totally
right.
agree.
I think maybe the gym floors, though, should be
I think
sooner,
Sooner.
because that's not gonna be part of the master plan, and that's, again, just gonna continue to deteriorate.
Yeah, the.
And that's our moneymaker.
I have to,
Exactly.
it is, but I have to say.
And it's gonna
the
be
gym
cheaper than
floor-
replacing the gym floor.
Yeah, yes.
Right.
If it's 15,000, let's say, if you're
Well, we had 18.5.
estimating
18.5.
That's what we had as
Let's
an
let's
estimate.
say it's 18.5. I would, for me and our programming, I prefer the outdoor basketball court over doing that
It's not,
project.
it's not,
Just
you
because
said
I
we,
don't
you're feeling like we
the
can push
gym-
it out and still be okay.
I do, for
Okay.
that gym floor. I mean,
Well, I
it's
think, though,
actually
That's good feedback.
pretty good
I think, though,
shape.
what you should look at, though, and remember this, is that master plan could say no about outdoor basketball
Right,
court.
it
You may not
could.
have enough
And then-
room.
Sure, well, then
And
maybe
so
we'll look
I
at
think-
that
I
money
think
going
that-
to the
that
gym floor.
Adam's right too, though. I think we should be looking at something to do with those floors or something to take care of, even if it's minimal work right now. It just needs it needs an update. And-
Yeah, well, we do, there's a $2,000 where the,
Yep.
where the.
maintenance.
Annual
ma-
maintenance, right?
Yeah, annual or semi, or
Right.
biannual, or every other year.
Yeah,
Where we sand the floor down, but not take off all the lines and
Right.
get it down there, but you take the top polish off.
well, even
or
that
varnish off
could
and-
save you another 2 more years.
And we're doing that.
And
Yeah, we are doing
for
that.
Yes,
sure.
We are
yes,
doing
we
that.
are.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's-
I-
That's
I
happening
think that's
regularly.
It has been,
Yeah,
up to-
We're doing
It's
that, and
either
if you think we could
annually
also
or
push it, then that's
every,
fine. I just,
yeah.
How about 18-19 on that?
yeah.
Yeah, I would think.
Can we throw
I
that
just want to
into
make sure that
18-19?
that makes sense.
we're also focusing on our current assets, not just
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
building new
Oh, I
stuff.
totally agree with you.
Yeah, but there is that annual or every other year heavier maintenance on it.
Yeah,
not
there were
just- Not just buffing the
Few
floor.
things that I, when I became director of the department, that I really wanted to emphasize. One was to make sure that we were maintaining what we had in a proper way, so that we weren't, it's the analogy of, you repair the roof so that you don't have a major leak and a major expense, and then you throw everything off and you ruin your programs. That was a big thing, and then, of course, the push for marketing, so that we could try and, get people back into our facilities, into our programs again. So,
Yeah.
those remain very, very true to our core values right there, so.
And I think it's obvious in what we're seeing coming back, the amount of people coming back, the amount of, that you're increasing in a lot of things out there. And I think if we show them that we're still, and we're starting to fix things, everybody always said, oh, it's just a rundown old building.
Right.
And that's what I don't care, you'd be 35 years old and you knew it was a rundown old building.
Yep.
You say, oh, it's just a rundown old building.
Right.
And it's not. It's a gym there that can be fixed and make look, real good.
Yeah, well, perception can be very powerful.
Yeah.
Well, when we had that neighborhood, it wasn't neighborhood planning, that's coming up, but the meeting with planning for
Oh, the historic preservation training?
Historic preservation training. We got I don't know if you saw that letter, but a lot of positive feedback about our multipurpose room and what a nice venue it was and how happy they were with that 10-foot screen that we have, a movie screen and HD projector. They loved the venue. They really appreciated the space and how
It's really
nice
to
it
have
was.
great.
Because it is looking a lot nicer. We
Yeah.
have made a lot of improvements, that's.
You both have to be commended, and your staff, of what you've been able to accomplish out there since we've changed and moved forward.
Okay, so
More to
we're
do.
pretty solid on 15-16, right?
Right.
Other than a look at the water feature as part of a Libby project,
Mhm.
right?
And we have correct.
Okay.
So just
The
to,
Sarasota playground on 16-17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Contingent on that master plan.
Yep.
I have a question. The overall park master plan,
For the larger system and all of
Right.
the
large
parks.
system. I know we rated it fairly high,
correct.
one low. Where does that fit into, like, the overall? Because I know council has talked about it as well a little bit. Where does that fit into this, or does it, or?
It's not slated anywhere right now.
Is your
It's-
question, is the money just from here?
Yeah, how does that all play
There's
out?
a different, I think there's more
I
than one
don't think that
question on
conversation and discussion
Hasn't been had.
has occurred yet.
Okay,
I think we should
But,
put it on the agenda and let's discuss it.
yeah, I think
Well,
that,
Sure, or you can certainly discuss it tonight and carry that forward as part of your recommendation, whether it be,
Whether it be
again,
Fund 31
you don't have to
or-
put everything in your recommendation in terms of specific project, dollar amount, and time. You could just say, city council, we really need to start thinking about how we're gonna fund redoing the
plan.
the master plan and the general plan element, the recreation element, and, it might be a good topic to put on for the joint meeting in August with the city council.
Perfect.
Just to
do
get,
that.
Yeah.
start,
I
does that
agree.
make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, and
okay.
Because I think what you're talking
I
about
think
is
you're
so
right.
important, but we don't want to capture it in our CIP.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there are so many projects to be done that
There are.
it would be a shame to
But
pull.
before we get too
yeah.
far down, like the Sarasota master plan and the Libby Park being redone, playground being redone, before we start going down all these roads, like let's
Look at the
bring it
whole big
all
picture.
together. Yeah.
Who are we serving? How do we serve them? What do
Exactly.
they want?
Exactly. You know.
How are we doing what we do? What are we not doing? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment
It's also,
because,
you have to have some sort of plan in place if you want to attempt to do a park district.
Exactly.
It's
You
a
have
piece
to
of
have that to present to the voters, so.
Okay.
And you need a master plan before you build a pool too. So
we'll just build it.
Okay. So how are you feeling? Questions for us?
Well, so what I've got, so for 15-16, I've got, the skate park lights at 20 and the gym needs at 10, and then look into the water element, but we don't have a dollar amount fixed with that. And then gym floor, 18-19, and again, it's about $20,000. That's just a estimate placeholder. And then the ball fields, I don't know if you were thinking 17-18 or, where you might
put it
want to
there, and
slate
then
that.
we'll look
Seem
back.
like okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. And I think we had an estimate on that at about 40.
Yeah.
And I know that was a couple years old, but at least for a placeholder, I think that's good for now.
I have a question for Sophocles as well. What about some of the other maintenance stuff we have on here, like the baseboards, the carpeting, the multipurpose floor?
Yeah. What part of that is maintenance and repairs, and what part of that is capital improvements?
Yeah, and what part is like, hey, this needs to be done quickly or relatively
Or
quickly?
are we talking just the high priority ones there?
Well, you know what happened is we
Like
deferred.
Right.
I know the replaced multi-purpose room floor, there wasn't really a high or low or medium priority there, but
We deferred basically
I
to
know, you
staffs.
deferred to
As
staff,
a
yeah.
commission, we deferred because basically that's not stuff that
Well,
we're in the know on where to spend that money and when you need to spend it.
sure. Well, I've been told that the floor isn't really conducive to, physically, ergonomically good for joints, and we do a lot of physical activity on that multi-purpose room floor, and
Do we have a cost
to-
estimate on
it's
that?
probably a better floor we can put on there. I don't know the exact.
10,000.
Multipurpose room,
Some
okay.
sort of dance floor, but
10,000 is what we have on
What's
the
that?
list.
Get
Place
lost
empty
on
or
my
no.
the
own
multi-purpose
I
room
know.
floor. I'm talking
There's a lot
about.
in there.
in the back.
Yeah, that
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so it has 10,000 on there.
That room gets the most, probably, next to the gym, the second most use and activity is
If-
in that multipurpose room.
Yeah, if I recall, the discussion was that we didn't think at the last meeting that it was too high, just because it was still in okay shape and.
Right.
It isn't in
functional.
bad, it's functional and it isn't in bad shape, but it's not necessarily the best type of
For the activities
material
that are
for the
now using it.
activities that go on in that room. It's
I-
not detrimental by any stretch, but.
I think the other thing we talked
Could-
about on that one is
yeah.
waiting again till after the master plan to prioritize for the whole site. But doesn't mean that we can't do that now.
And I may be getting confused a little bit with the stage. I think we talked about the stage
Yeah.
is really, the stage not really being.
That was a low priority.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is, that's
so-
definitely a low priority, and
Right.
in the curtain, low priority. But the
That's
floor
right.
itself,
Okay.
That's
and
correct.
the activity that, the
But it's in
activities
good
that. are-
shape. It's just not ideal type
It's not
of
the right
floor.
type for the
It's
activities
not the
that
right
you're
type
doing.
of
Right.
floor.
But it's in
for
fine
the-
shape.
It's in good
But
shape,
it's in
okay.
good shape. So,
Well, we could look at it and come back with what we think, how many more years we could reasonably.
Well, and I
use
think
out of
that was the hope with all those things that we were deferring to staff on, is this, that when you guys have time, which is not now, to look at those items that we deferred to really take.
Sure.
We just don't know enough about them, and it isn't in our, I don't think it's what we're here to do about some of those more everyday working kinds of things, and then come up with a priority list from that side of things.
Okay.
And then try and fit it in based on costs and needs each year. Which doesn't help the process right this second, but.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, is the outdoor basketball court though staying where
didn't take
where
it off.
is?
We
Oh,
didn't move it.
No, it stays, yeah.
just checking.
Yeah, no, I agree. That has to stay.
But that has to do also
But it has
with
to
the
do with,
Sarasota master
of
plan.
course,
Right.
yeah, I know it's not a slam dunk, not to put it in.
Oh. Well, if you took that out, Mr. Kotsis would be really deflated.
I know.
Thank you, Mr.
We don't want to make you sad.
That was something that I
Wow.
saw the eyes light up when we started talking about it out there.
Yeah.
That was a great, yeah, so.
Okay, so
What's the latest on the pump track?
So we met with the Ojai Valley Tennis Association this week. So that was we finally got our first outreach meeting, and so we're hoping to get through the rest of them pretty rapidly. And then once we get through that process, we'll kind of see where they are in terms of their plans, and you know, we got to work through everybody's concerns and make sure that we've got a viable project. But we're moving forward with those outreach.
Have we had some concerns right now from any of the?
Well, we just want to make sure that we reach out to everybody and make sure that we're not missing any fatal flaw issues, and if there are concerns, to see if they can be addressed or or otherwise mitigated or at least explored. So I would say that in general, the folks that we met with were basically very supportive of the park. They understand that there's a lot of different needs in town and that everybody, deserves a spot under the sun, so to speak. That group wasn't too particularly concerned with the loss of the parking. They realized that it certainly would have an impact during the tennis tournament, and we agree with that. But of course, there's a lot of, the whole town's pretty much jammed up. But, we're talking about 35 parking spots that would be lost, so that's what the impact would be there. They were a little more concerned with, if you've got a lot of people down there in bikes, what it might bring more traffic of people riding bikes through the courts and particularly on the courts or somehow interfering with that activity. Obviously, we explained to them that one of the reasons why we settled on that site as a preferred site is because it's got proximity to a public restroom. We didn't want it out somewhere where, you were either going to have to put in porta potties or temporary bathroom or something like that. That's very expensive. But again, the concern would, if you got people there, are they now going to be hanging out down near the bathrooms and whatnot? So they also had some concerns about just safety in general in terms of the parking lot and how you integrate that with the traffic and the bikes. So. But in general, they didn't say, absolutely not. We'll fight this tooth and nail. Like I said, I think they were generally supportive, but wanted to make sure that the courts were protected and the programs would still be viable down there, and we certainly share those concerns. So, how do we address it? We're still talking about that.
I think we could even do something, I don't know how the others feel here, but during the tennis tournament, we could possibly close it so that they don't have bikes running all over and stuff down there too, so.
Yeah, and the tennis tournament, we actually talked about that particular point, and we said that would be no problem. They could shut down the park if that was the preference. The main concern was not necessarily during the tennis tournament, but just every day. Just because there would be, and people understand, we were all kids once, you're on a bike, you ride down to the bathroom and and then I'll just go cruise through here and go check this out. And, a lot of times people aren't even thinking about it. So, Ben was there from the bike group and was very responsive, understood what their concerns are, and we said that we would try to work with them to try to address that as much as possible.
Was there any discussion regarding the funding or what they have available in funding, or?
No, we didn't talk about that with the
Not at
tennis
these
association.
Okay.
No, right.
These are more like stakeholders and addressing
That's
their
correct.
concerns.
Right. And now Ben did mention that they are looking at potentially a fairly lengthy phase to do fundraising. So that's what we're trying to work through to get this thing viable, so that they feel they can go out and raise the funds for it.
Get started, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. I think if the skate park is any indicator in some ways, creating the skate park really cut down on the problems that the city was
Right.
having with skateboards. So I think that same pride of ownership and the interest of having something that they really want, I think is a powerful powerful force in keeping things working. And I think the same will kind of hold true there, I hope. Because
Yeah, I think
definitely we
so.
saw the skate park, there were a lot of problems with skateboards before that. They put the skate park in and it really changed that. So I know it's a different kind of element because you're bringing them somewhere else and you're worried that it's going to cause a problem there. But I'm hopeful that, the kids will honor that they have the facility.
Well, yeah, I think that was part of the message too, was if you build something like that, it sends a message to the youth in the community.
Commitment to that, yeah.
And I think they really do step up and respect the fact that the adults in the community care enough to make a space for them.
Yeah, but valid concerns, but those are just,
Yeah, another thing, and actually I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but since we're on the topic, Fillmore has a pump track that they recently opened, so I was actually going to try to schedule a little field trip to go out
That's a
there.
great
So I
idea.
don't know if any of you are interested in that.
I'd like to go.
Obviously, we would be difficult to take a quorum. We could do it, but let me know if you're interested, and we can try and work that out. And then I just also wanted to mention, somewhat related, but just in terms of the popularity of the sport, Ventura, and again, a little different, but they have the BMX racetrack there in Ventura at the community park where the pool is. And this past weekend, I am exaggerating, but it seemed like there were about 3,000 motorhomes
No,
there.
you're not exaggerating.
it's huge.
Yeah.
I was on my way to LA, and
Yeah.
that place was
I couldn't
packed.
believe it.
and the number
It
of kids
was-
from Ojai, huge.
Oh, really?
Oh, there's lots of kids from Ojai going out
Wow.
there.
Yeah. So there you go. So just a little validation that there's a lot of popularity.
I thought, what is going on?
And,
they were just packed out there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know where we would put 3,000 motorhomes in Ojai.
Nice
but,
to have all that extra space they have out there. Yeah.
Park Road.
That's true. Yeah, Soul Park. Anyways,
Yeah.
so just
Okay.
wanted to mention that.
Take over Soul Park.
Okay, so were we moving on for any more comments on capital improvement prioritization?
I got one quick comment. And just a couple of that you have on the plan, up on the top, you had paving the north parking lot.
Uh-huh.
And I think because Steve and I were talking that the lower parking lot at Libby was on a priority, it's really a beat parking lot. But because it's a possibility for this bike track, we thought we'll knock that off and try to prioritize this one. So we're gonna
So
try
which
to
one are you
make
trying to
that.
prioritize? Sorry, help me out.
We're trying to remove lower Libby.
Okay.
That I was gonna do this year.
Right, because of
coming
the
up,
possible changes.
and then prioritize it over to the Sarzati parking lot.
So the little one around the mulberry tree.
Right, because
Okay.
it has gotten in such
I would
bad
just like to
shape.
say this. Let's hold off till the master plan is done.
Okay,
I
okay.
know you don't want to hear that.
We don't mind holding off. We need money,
But
so that's a great way to say it.
I know it's really bad.
That's true.
But it's also not a very functional parking lot.
Yep, there's some talk about
You
realigning
pave
it.
that parking lot, it's not a great parking lot.
I know the commissioners will understand this, so I think we wanted to make sure that we got our foot in the door
On
to
the
get
money,
it on
yeah.
the list.
No, got it.
So that we could have it there when we were ready
When
to
we're
go.
ready, okay.
I mean, and
Yes.
I don't disagree with you, and I'm not trying to argue the point, but as you probably well know, it has gotten to the point where you can't see the lines anymore.
There are no lines,
And, the handicap parking and all that,
But it's true, the master plan, that's,
Even in the last master plan.
the
that
master
wasn't a
plan should be
parking lot
done this
anymore.
calendar year, right, by December, so we could still, we were thinking of getting it done along with some other parking lots this summer.
We'll be done
But
with
we'll
the
wait.
master planning, through the summer.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we'll see how it's coming then. Okay, and
Yeah.
I also want to mention that the passenger van, we've already got that. We have a separate equipment replacement plan, so all the vehicles are,
So
and
you now
that's,
have a sinking fund for that as well as.
we have a
computers and
separate
some other
independent
things.
sinking
Okay.
fund, right?
Yeah,
That's
we
great.
we addressed that the last meeting, but thanks.
Oh, you
for-
did?
but-
Okay.
But thank you for reminding that. So we've got a lot of information here.
Okay,
So,
and even computers, yeah, the computers,
Yes.
we now have an equipment, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Greg.
Of ours and on to somewhere else.
That's right. That goes to the general fund.
Okay, something. All right, so we're good on capital fund. Okay, capital improvements. Operating budget for 15-16. Thanks, Greg.
So,
This is an oral report, so we don't.
we're still getting the budget pieces together. So what I wanted to do tonight was just kind of give you an idea where we are with this year's budget, and then see if there are any burning concerns that we need to address in next year's budget. Obviously, we meet monthly and we hear from the commission, so we try to address concerns as we go along, but really haven't given the opportunity for the commission to really give their thoughts. So, one, if you want, I can go quickly, just very, very briefly, and I'm sorry I don't have handouts on anything, but just in terms of where we are in this year's budget, and I can give a very detailed report at the June. We can go over, at that point, we'll have pretty good year-to-date figures for this fiscal year, and we'll have at least what was drafted and presented to council for next fiscal year. But in general, I just want to say we're doing very well. I'm going to focus really on the program budget here, because everything else, they're pretty much, I don't want to say fixed costs, but more day-to-day operational costs and whatnot. But we've had a really good success with our programs this year. When we adopted the budget, we set a revenue target, which was very conservative, of just under $395,000. We set it at $394,795. As of May 4th, we were at 97% of our of what we had predicted for the entire fiscal year, and obviously we've still got 2 more months to go and a lot of summer registrations to collect. So we're quite confident that we're going to exceed that, probably by a pretty good number. So I know Sophocles will probably give his prognostications here.
I don't even want to, we're still at a $50,000 ahead of last fiscal year pace, so.
That's a good way to put it.
we're-
We expect that to continue and maybe get even better. So
We finished at 438 last year, so you can add potentially that amount to 438, but we'll wait and see.
So a couple of things I just wanted to point out that we've done pretty well. Adult softball, we had gone into the year with adopting $7,500 in revenues. We're already at just under 13,000.
That's great.
So that's we're at 173% percentage on that. CrossFit also doing quite well. We had budgeted 14,000 revenue and we're over 22,000. So that's also performing quite well. I wouldn't say that we have that every program is performing better than expected, but they're I would say the ones that are the few that aren't there are pretty small programs in terms of the number and the impact and whatnot. For example, well, right now in the budget, we're only at about 55% on aquatics, but the bulk of that revenue is still yet to come in. Gymnastics, we're going to hit right about what we expected to hit. That number got artificially inflated in the budget, and it should have been at about 66,000, and we're expecting to hit or exceed that. The one program that we're a little bit concerned about is the tennis program, which obviously is one of our biggest, strongest programs. We had 33,000 budgeted in revenue, and right now we're at about 20, which is about 60% for the year. So there's a good chance we'll fall short of the target on that, although it's being made up for, more than being made up for in other areas. But that is something that we're taking a look at, try to see maybe what's going on there, what might be doing that, what factors might be pushing that down. And so we're talking about, we want to get our heads around what might be causing that, and then maybe it might be time to, with a lot of these things, they become like your bread and butter, and you just kind of bank on the fact that they're going to continue to do well year after year after year, and it may be time to maybe highlight that program or see what we could do to program, to package it or focus on it a little bit more. So,
Steve, what was the previous year for tennis? Has it been going down? Has it been declining?
Prior year was, we had 32,000, and like I said, right now we're at about 20, and so I don't think we're going to hit that. We were projecting modest growth on the program. I don't have the numbers before that. I don't know if you know off the top of your head.
Yeah, well, no, I have 2012-13 fiscal year was 34. Last year, 13-14, it was 32.
And it's not a summer program, it's a program we make money on all year long,
Yeah,
correct?
it's a year round.
It's not a
Yeah.
camp or a.
And there's still another session of tennis, another 8-week session of tennis before the end of the fiscal year.
Right.
And we'll see.
I'm
what
wondering
that
if it's just
draws.
like the racket club or something might be doing more
Could be.
classes.
Could be.
Do you think some sport, they ebb and flow too?
They do.
And
It's-
we had a lot of focus on it when we were at Tennis Town USA.
Right.
And we had some money we were spending on getting kids out to play. I don't know where we are on that. I know they're still going to the schools, but I don't know if
Yeah,
we're doing
the-
as,
the
I don't think we're
Quick
doing as
Start
many,
program is-
right, but I don't think we're doing as many outreach programs as we did there for a while. 'Cause
Well, I think,
we-
no, the Quick Start is what
the
we've
schools,
been
but we were
doing for the
doing
last
some-
3 years.
Right, but then there were a couple of other times where we did it at other events, right around when we had the Tennis Town USA and some other stuff, so we had,
I mean, you look at the last 2 years, it's.
yeah, it's not a bad thing, but
constant,
just looking
but
at maybe where our changes
Sure, there was a
are
lot
in
of
our
focus
program.
there for all, you know, with the hitting wall, you
Yep.
know, come in, just a
Yeah.
lot of things, you know, just a
The-
series of things that really had the spotlight on
Yeah,
tennis,
that
so.
Best Tennis Town really pushed it
Sure.
to high priority or
Right.
high exposure.
Had visibility.
High
yeah.
visibility,
Yeah.
thank you. And so that was probably a big push, because looking at those numbers, we were probably 100 participants per session, and now we're about at 75, so
Which is still great.
there's
Do we have a
still good,
competitor?
but it's still a drop.
Do we have a competitor out there that's doing?
Not at the same price point.
Not, yeah. I mean, of course, you've got wild tennis.
There are competitors, but
Wait,
nothing at the same
and-
price
And you've
point.
got
So
the
no
athletic,
one
and you've
else.
got the athletic club, but
I don't think
again,
so.
there's
It's not like Rick is our guy, right?
yes,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, athletic club, wild tennis, they are definitely in a different price point than we are.
Yeah.
So, it is, part of it is cyclical
Yeah.
interest.
But I think it's a great question to ask when it starts to go down. You know, the things that we can do
Yeah.
to support the program, are there ways that we can increase participation and,
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
It's just a couple other things, you know, and I just gotta hand it to the staff, you know, we've got programs added this year that we didn't even have in the budget, so we got revenue that we didn't even
I
expect.
love that.
You know, even cartooning has done better than expected. But, you know, we were able to get guitar, you know, not a huge amount of money come in, but $1,700 that we weren't anticipating. Keyboarding class brought in over 1,000. Kung Fu is continuing to do well. That was budgeted at 9.5 and we're already over 11,000. Painting, pottery class are also exceeding the budget expectations. We had to cancel the Spanish club, so that was one that we had $2,800 for that we're not gonna get any. Let's see, Western Horsemanship, also, has done very well. And again, you know, when we come up with these dollar figures, we always try to be very conservative because we don't want to bank on something, even if we think it's going to do well. If we don't have the history or, you know, or much history on it, it's difficult to get too crazy there. So, Western Horsemanship, we probably put that artificially low at $1,000, and we've taken in $3,300 this year. Zumba Fitness, that's a new one. That's already reached its target for this year. The Wilderness, what we heard from Heather King earlier today. Well, we've collected over we had $1,000 budgeted for revenue, and we've taken in $15,700. So that's over 1,000% higher than what we expected. So it's done extremely well.
That's great.
So we're really happy with that program. So, contracted specialty camps, I know we still have revenue coming in for that. That one's a little bit down, kind of like the tennis, but we're not quite sure why. We've got 57% in on that. But
But
we'll-
you're just
well,
about to hit the
but
time of the
we'll-
year
right.
where you really make it.
Yeah, we've got May and June to fill that
Yeah.
void or that amount.
So, having said all that, and again, I'm sorry, but I'll bring all the details for this at the June meeting, including the draft for next year. But at this point, we're only $12,000 short of our revenue target.
That's great.
And we probably hit that as of today, I would probably
Yeah.
guess. So, and then on the expense side, like I said, we're pretty much holding serve there. We do tend to see program expenses go up proportionally to, you know, the class registration. So
Makes sense.
if we're thinking we were only going to spend $1,000 on, you know, for class, and we take in, you know, 3 times as much in registrations, then obviously that expense is going to go up proportionally. But again, we're at 97% on our program revenue, and we're at 91% on our program expenses. So there's nothing there that that we're out of control on or we're concerned with. So we're well within the operating budget there. So as Sophocles stated earlier, you know, we were originally projecting about $40,000 to go from recreation into the capital improvement fund. Again, that's above and beyond the other money from the capital improvement fund. And we still think that we'll hit that and probably go higher than that, but I don't want to be counting any chickens at this point. So I know it's a little difficult for you because I haven't given you all the budget information here, but is there anything that the commission has in terms of concerns or thoughts, or what they, areas that they would like to see us try to address in next year's budget? Be happy to take that input and see if we can work that in. Really, it's pretty much status quo in terms of, well, it's absolutely status quo in terms of the staffing and the structure and all that. We're continuing to focus on the marketing. We're proposing to bump that up a few $1,000s next year. We've had some increased costs on the postcards, but we think it's really paying off, and we don't want to back off from that. But if there's anything that that you would like us to try to address in next year's budget, I'd be happy to take that input.
Anything at this time, anybody?
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you for the report, that's great.
Just, and somewhat on the same topic, we're trying to get back up to full speed again. Obviously, we had Allison and Caitlin as our part-time rec specialists, and then when Matt left, we brought Allison into that full-time position. And as you know, we were advertising for the recreation specialist, and we got about 24 applications in on that, and we're working through those, and we're going to be scheduling interviews. So hopefully we can get that person hired and in the office for a couple of weeks before the fun of summer hits. So
give them a chance to get their feet wet a little bit.
Exactly. So, but that's good news, and I know the staff is looking forward to having an additional body to help man the staff the office there. So,
and I will say I see a lot more Instagram, Facebook stuff being pumped out on a weekly basis. Yeah. And it's good to see, because then it gets reposted, and just it's nice to see it keep getting pumped out.
I don't know if the, are you going to talk a little bit about this? I will not steal your thunder.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so update on the budget was great.
Already, actually.
So I promise I will come back with detailed reports at the next budget for what we've done 14-15, as well as the draft.
So we'll receive that in our packet before our next meeting?
Yes, you will.
Before the meeting though, right?
Yes, you will.
Okay, thank you.
And if you don't see it in there, feel free to rattle my cage, because you definitely need it.
Okay, and then, so next up on our agenda is Sarzodi Master Plan update. And I think that's you again, Steve.
Yes, it is. So as you recall, we had this discussion at the Parks Commission, and the commission voted to go with the Pacific Coast land design. We took that recommendation forward to City Council, and that was staff's recommendation. Council went an opposite direction. They ultimately went with Community Design Works Group. The question that they honed in on was, and I really didn't set this up. I honestly was not trying to do this, but what the council members themselves kind of honed in on was the same issue that I had raised with the Parks Commission, which was with Pacific Coast, they're requiring more on the staff to do the writing of that plan, and they would be willing to do that, but for an additional $6,000. So there was a fair amount of discussion at the council, but ultimately they decided to award the contract to Community Design Works Group. And
they're out of where?
They are based they've got offices in San Luis Obispo, and also down south.
Inland Empire.
Riverside.
In Riverside, right. But again, they are very familiar with Ventura County. They've done projects in Ojai and Fillmore, and out in Piru, and they really have an excellent reputation. So based on council's direction on that, so we've got the contract signed, and we're trying to coordinate the kickoff meeting. And so I feel bad now, because it seems like our facilities committee just gets hit left and right. but I wanted to extend an invitation to either the facilities committee or whomever the commission would like to be, but I wanted to invite at least a couple commissioners to be part of that kickoff meeting.
And what's the date on that?
I don't have a date yet,
Okay,
but
you're
I wanted to
working
know who might be willing or wanting to serve on that. I'd be
I
happy
would
to
like to
get that set
participate,
up.
but
Okay,
anyone else who's interested?
I'd participate in that as well.
okay. So we'll get that set up as soon as we can, and we'll get that going. So we're a little behind their original
Yeah.
timeline, you know, really had it starting off in April, and we didn't even get it awarded until a little bit after that. So, but I think we'll be able to get back onto that schedule pretty quickly and get going, so.
I'm also hoping that we can capitalize on Libby as part of this process as well, in capturing participants and information. and
Oh,
people.
right.
I think there's going to be a real opportunity here with one project to feed another.
Right. We also extended an invitation to them about the open house, so in case they wanted to or were able to get somebody out
Okay.
or put some materials out or something like that. So we did extend that invitation to them. We didn't want to miss a potential opportunity there.
Okay.
Uh,
And have
so-
you heard back from them on that, or?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I-
that would be an interesting place to have a survey piece, even if they're not there.
Right, right.
Do some initial collection of information and contact information.
Right. Well, and it might be good, even if they can't get something, we'll talk about that, to put something out there. It'd be good. We don't want to get lost with everything
What they want
else.
to see at the park.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Well, just to let them know, you know,
That
what's
this is
coming up.
coming and there's a
Yeah,
question, and sometimes the way to get people involved is through a question.
Right.
What are you interested in? And then their information, and then we can,
Yeah, and of course, a little, somewhat similar to Libby, but of course, with this process, they would actually come out and do, well, ultimately, we ended up doing that here with Libby too, with the, you know, a general town
Right.
hall meeting type thing, so.
Yeah, there's some
There will be
similarities.
an opportunity, you know, for the public to come and be part of that.
okay, good.
So, okay, we'll get that set up.
Other questions? Any other? Okay. On to our summer meeting schedule.
Just a quick note on that, so obviously that proposal was for 20,000, and so
Oh, sorry.
the council, my apologies, did authorize that up to 20. So, so that 20,000 will come out of the park tax fund, and the balance will remain in there.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so summer meeting schedule, I think we're discussing in particular the July 2nd meeting. People's schedules and whether we'd like to reschedule that, or I think that we should keep, I don't want to just not have a meeting. I think we have too much going on.
Yeah, it seems like
We need to definitely, it all in July?
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to look at people's schedules. You'll be gone, okay, so
I'm good.
Should be good.
why don't we revisit it next month?
Sounds good.
Okay.
We know that Robert's out,
I
but,
do think, I agree, I
So much
agree, I
going
think
on.
we should, keep the momentum going
Mhm.
with everything we have on the.
Okay. Are we going to try to reschedule from the 2nd, or?
no, can we just, well, let's table it till next month where we have
Sure.
our new member here.
Okay.
We know Robert we
Okay.
know Robert, and then the rest of us will see what we think.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Sophocles, you're up.
All right.
Recreation staff
Um,
reports.
So our April-May program review, that we had our Michelle Palza event, Friday before last, Friday the 24th, I believe it was. Excellent event, as always, high attendance. We did have it videotaped, so that is on Channel 10
Okay.
for viewing for the general public, but also we had DVDs made for any of the gymnasts that wanted to pay $5 and purchase one of those DVDs of the event too. So we were happy about the way that all turned out, as usual. Very successful. We just started a new gymnastics session, and it seems like after a Michelle Palza event, there's a little, speaking of marketing, there's a
Yes.
little more push in numbers for participants, but again, it's over 200 enrolled in the program, so proud of that gymnastics program. As always, speaking of numbers that are slowly creeping up, is our dodgeball Friday night dodgeball. It's not really a
Good.
league, but drop-in
Drop in.
dodgeball.
That's great.
So we had 35 kids last Friday. As a matter of fact, I worked the office just this last Friday, and leading up to dodgeball, there was probably 20 to 25 teenagers in the game room
Good.
from the end of school until
Till
dodgeball
dodgeball. That's
started.
great.
So it was it seemed like summer camp had already started.
Is there a proper pounds per square inch of the inflation on those dodgeballs that you have to conform
You
to?
know, Mr. McClary, you can't tell if there's only a pound missing, it makes no difference.
Okay, all right. Has no effect on the game, okay.
That does not affect the throwing
wanted
of
to
the
ask.
ball. Yeah. Thank you. So this coming Friday, so as you know, dodgeballers may not know, dodgeball is always the first and third Friday of the month, just for the general public, and it's $3 for drop-in, so we
Excellent.
encourage even more people to come. But this Friday, we're doing our parent movie night. That's the movie we're showing is Milo and Otis, or Otis and Milo? Yeah, Milo and Otis. So that parents can bring their children, drop off at 6 p.m. They do a little game room and free play before the movie starts. The movie's at 7, and pickup is at 9, and that's all for $10 to get
great.
movie, pizza, drink, and popcorn. So it's a good deal for a date night for parents. We'll be at the NFL event. So
Neighborhood
this
for Learning. Mhm.
neighborhood. Yeah, excuse me. Yes, I say NFL. Yes, Neighborhood for Learning at Libby Park. So that will be represented there, and of course, we'll be promoting our own open house there and a lot of our summer programs.
Is that our first or second time, or do we do that every year? I'm trying to recall. The Neighborhood for Learning event?
Yeah, last year it was
The same weekend.
same weekend.
Yeah,
As
that's
our
right.
open house,
Yes,
so-
That's
yes.
right.
But we do it. I mean, aside of last year,
Yeah.
we do attend that annual event. Again, it's at Libby Park. It starts at 10:30 a.m. and it goes till 2 p.m. So we'll be there. Our office staff will be out and
Good.
giving out helium balloons and have a little game ready to go for kids to play and win prizes. So we'll be out there. Let's see any other. So the summer programs. We'll get to the activity guide, but our summer programs, we've already received upwards of 120 registrations.
That's great.
Between aquatics and the specialty camps
Since
and
this
day
has
camps.
since this has gone
Since
out.
the activity guide has gone out, yes, I just, without looking back to previous years, I would say that number is up
Good.
over previous summers. So excited about the sort of the opening of our summer registration. It's looking strong. So you have your summer activity guides here. You'll see handed out. Have at least 20 specialty camps happening, while in addition to the day camp. So as you know, day camp or day camp brings in about 40 to 45 kids daily, and at that same time we have 1 week specialty camps going on. So
I just wanted to take a moment, just to highlight the postcard. It was just a fantastic design. Both Caitlin and Allison are doing a great job, marketing. We've gotten some really good feedback on this. A lot of people walking in with the postcard and wanting to
That's
know more
great.
about the aquatics program. So I just really wanted to thank the staff for their creative work on that. I just think it looks fantastic, and
And the webpage is still looking great. I think that's
Yeah,
really a
that-
huge improvement too.
yeah, that was mostly Allison's doing to redo that whole
Yeah.
our web.
The whole look of things is really nice, and I think you can see it in the postcard and the webpage and the activity guide.
Sophocles, is there
Yeah.
any thought of having your own app? Doing an app for smartphone?
No, we haven't thought about that, but
an interesting
to
idea.
what degree? Help me
Well, I
out.
can show you, like the Ojai tennis tournament has one. Then it's incredible. I mean, and you can update it like
It's live.
Real time.
Real time, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, you'll have to.
So you're talking about like for the schedule and what's
You
going
have
on
the
and
schedule,
what's up
yeah,
today and.
pretty much you could put,
We just got an Instagram account, so.
Yeah. No,
Well, no, I'm
we're
just-
more than
No
happy
rush.
to, no, actually, we're more than
Baby
happy to
steps.
go there. I'm just wondering the app, what, for the application of that app, like what would be its primary function to do schedules?
similar to the website.
Yeah.
It'd just be an app that would have your schedules.
A mobile version?
Yeah.
Yeah, of what you do.
Quicker, mobile.
Yeah, I think part of the tricky thing there, or I would say, well, you know, the registration is through ActiveNet, and, you know, I'd be curious if we could, you know,
They have something like that.
scale something over to that. Obviously, the website is scalable to your smartphone. You can access it through that way. But I understand what you're asking. But
little
no,
different
it's-
than a website.
certainly it is. Certainly it is. But no, honestly, it's not something we have looked into yet. But
But we have some pretty
Savvy
tech-
people. Yeah, absolutely.
tech-savvy
Yeah.
staff that,
You have resources that
Would
you
be
might not have
more
had
And I don't
before.
have the details on the Ojai,
Yeah.
I know I have it,
Yeah.
it's a free.
And it worked
yeah.
nicely and it
Oh,
was.
yeah, yeah, it's really a.
yeah, they would, they're always ready to jump on the opportunity for more marketing or any other networking that we can do.
And it's interesting,
We're
to
getting there.
ActiveNet also is a good question what they're doing.
Mhm.
Where are they and what are they developing?
Mhm.
Because, I
Yeah.
mean, that should be a field that's moving pretty quickly on that side, too.
It
yeah,
really is.
and just generally, you know, again, a lot of it is just how much we can kind of, you know, bite and chew off and bite. That didn't make any sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. You know, right now we're focused on, you know, getting the websites
Leaps and bounds
modernized
already.
and going.
Yes.
So I think that might be a future, another phase down the road, you know, much like there's been discussion about, you know, trying to move the city into more of the social media and that type of thing. Obviously, we're there with rec, and because
You're leading the way.
it's well, it really serves a purpose for us. It's a little more tricky in terms of the general city, but anyways, that's a topic for another day.
But I think we're heading in the
We
right
we have
direction.
600 and, close to 650
Excellent followers.
likes on our members
Yeah.
with the rec department, and we've already received feedback about the open house up from our Facebook. You know, 40, just over 40 people say they're going to attend.
Oh,
and
good.
Bunch of maybes, and you know, so and that we'll just keep pushing that. I don't know about daily, but practically daily on Facebook to get people to come.
It's almost daily right now, which is good.
Yeah.
It's great. There, another organization that I work with, we did a study, and that's what they said, that you know, you have one chance to capture people, and right now, in any household, if there's a household of 4, you know, with all the smartphones, you're going to capture it 4 different ways. One person's going to do Facebook, one's going to do Instagram, one's doing Twitter, and you know,
There's no one path to
one of the
communication at
parents
this
is
point,
doing
yeah.
an email. Yeah, so it's important that we do it all.
Yeah, we
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other part of that is, I think, you know, you have to reach somebody 6 or 7 times with the message before it sinks in. There's some evidence on that too, so.
Well, we,
Yep.
yeah. Well, we plan on doing a mass email too.
Yeah, you guys are doing a good job.
Yeah,
Doing-
yeah,
it's
that mass
been
email will
great,
come
yeah.
up with not only the open house, but the summer activity guide being out, and that we're accepting registration. So you'll, if you're,
I'm on the
get our
list.
emails, you're on the list. You
The
will see
list.
that mass email soon.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the teen programs, so you'll look on page 14, it talks about our summer dances and our teen night, and I'll
Yeah.
pass this, Nordoff, we did the little
Oh, in their
ad in the
newspaper.
Nordoff
Great.
Ranger, so I'll pass that around. It's basically the page 14, and we put it in, the Nordoff Ranger, and we'll try to get it in there. We might have missed their May deadline, but we'll try to get it in their May issue too. We contacted Matilaha about getting in their daily bulletin, which they said was fine. We could get in their bulletin. We
Good
just
deal.
haven't nailed down exactly when we'll put it in there. And they also have a parent newsletter publication that we're going to put this information into as well, about their, because there is a 7th and 8th grade dance, and then just a teen night for 13 to 17-year-olds. So we're making pushes into the schools to get that information out. Our open house, so as you hopefully all know, that's next
Soon.
Saturday, May 16th, soon, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the last Park and Rec Commission meeting, asked that if each commissioner could try to come up with 2 raffle prizes to donate. If you have those prizes and you either email us with what you have or bring them over to the rec department sometime next week, that would be great.
Okay.
The rec department is going to do some gift certificates too, to raffle off, but the more raffle prizes we have, obviously the more exciting that is once we do those 3 draws. So I'm going to, speaking of raffle and schedule, I'm going to pass out a tentative draft of schedule of events that we'll be having this Saturday. So take one down and pass that around. I'm also going to pass around a basically a sign-up sheet. It'll have all the instructors on this sheet that are coming to the open house, but down at the bottom of this sheet, it'll say welcome table, one of our staff, and a commissioner. In the margin next to there, if you wouldn't mind putting your name next to that respective timetable, so we can assign you to those areas. But you can pick the area that you'd like to be at. So you'll see when I pass this around, it'll say welcome table, and there's a time slot from 10:45 to 12:30. So if you want that time slot, just write your name there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But if you want us in
No, I
slots,
know,
that's
but
fine.
we want
We want to know where
there'll
we're going to be.
specific areas where we'd like to see you at, where we know you'll get a lot of exposure to the public. So,
No problem.
well, I'm going to pass this around. You'll see
we'll
it'll
be
just
there
say
for sure.
commissioner, and if you want that time slot, you could just put your name by it. What else about the open house? Expecting a great turnout. Like I said, we've received pretty good feedback already on our Facebook page, but we're expecting hopefully a bigger turnout than we had last year. It happens to coincide too with the end of the five-a-side program. It's going to be the end of pony baseball season too.
Wow,
So
okay.
we will have a captive audience out there where they'll just probably naturally meander over. As a matter of fact, five-a-side is we're sharing the cost of those bounce houses that'll be out there.
Oh, that's really nice. That's
too.
great.
Yeah. I think that's it on the open house, unless you guys have any questions about it. It starts at 11. I know some of you have mentioned you've got prior commitments and you won't be able to get there an hour after or so, but if you want to give, well, I'm passing
Sign
that
up on that
sign-up
sheet.
sheet
Okay.
around. Sign up and maybe get there a few minutes early, before the event starts to get settled in.
Okay.
But we have a lot of nice giveaways too. Aside of the raffle prizes, we've just got some reusable shopping bags and some cool frisbees to hand out just to whoever shows up.
Nice.
We already talked about the bike and pump track. I don't know if Steve, you want anything really
we're
you
good.
need to add to that?
Yeah, okay.
Good.
Yeah. But otherwise, we're ready to go for that open house. We're excited about it. It's the second annual. Just for the public, I'll say again, Saturday,
That's right.
May 16th, starts at 11, ends at 2.
So, Vice Chair, before you move on, if I could just have a quick moment, a couple other announcements from staff. We're finalizing an exchange of services agreement with
Nice.
Pony Baseball to redo the scoreboard, score booth, and also to repaint the game room.
Great.
Nice.
So,
That's
I think we've got the basic details worked out on that, so we just need to get the agreement signed and then work out a date when that can get started. So we appreciate Pony Baseball for that.
Yeah,
And
thank
I
you very much.
don't have a date for sure. We'll have to work that out around everybody's schedules, but the idea would be to try to do it sometime, I guess,
Before summer,
before summer.
before the summer program.
Right, right. So
prior to June 15th.
So that's the goal, but that's in the works, so that's good news. And then just wanted to quickly touch on items that are upcoming that the Park and Rec Commission might be of interest. We are going to talk a little bit about the input that you gave tonight on the CIP projects when we talk about the budget on June 9th. So that's coming up. Libby Park Playground, Mr. Grant is going back to council on May 26th on that.
Okay.
So you might want to note that in your calendar. Other things that are coming up that may be of interest, budget adoption and any related fees, that's scheduled for June 23rd. That would be to adopt next year's next year's budget. And I mentioned the joint meeting with Park and Rec, although I'm confused because I'm seeing this on the calendar now twice. So I think it was originally scheduled for August 11th, but I see it on here also for the 25th, so we certainly won't make you meet on both days. I think we may have done that depending on what the council does with their summer schedule, which we will know after next Tuesday. So I'll make sure to update you on that. And that's all I have.
Okay, excellent. On to commissioners' reports and comments. Does anybody have anything?
No.
Okay, the only thing I would have is the announcement that we have lost a commissioner.
Thank you for covering that.
And that we now have a new commissioner.
It's on my list.
Which may be news to some of us. Dwayne has left us and someone new has been appointed. So we will meet them at our next meeting.
Ryan Firestone was appointed. He had a conflict, so he was not able to attend this meeting. He apologizes for that. He had his sister's wedding. So
That's no excuse.
yeah. So he will be with us at the June meeting, and he's looking forward to it.
Okay.
He will actually be at the open house.
That's true. Thank you.
That's nice. Okay. So no other reports from anybody. We don't have a council liaison tonight, so no report there.
Who is our council liaison?
I don't know who it is right now.
Was it Wyrick right
now?
That
Okay.
rotates quarterly.
Okay. Yes, so no updates there. Future meeting dates and agenda items. What did we talk about? I didn't write it down. We talked about talking about turf at some point and planning. Those are the two I remember, right?
And also at the joint meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Also at the joint meeting to talk about master planning and.
Joint meeting and
to get
master
that-
planning.
Where do we get that on the
Okay.
radar and in the budget?
And those are the two items I have, so.
You did mention something about water, maybe wanting to
That's-
have a
that's-
water
yeah.
Yes.
education.
Water
but
usage and-
Did you say
and-
that already?
Well, I was talking about turf, or, grass.
Grass
I
and
don't
trees.
think
What
that
we
was for
maintain.
us, though. I think Greg said that he was gonna do that.
I would like us to have it on ours.
Ours?
Yeah. To talk about what, if we have to make big cuts, what are our goals, what to maintain, what not to maintain, how we keep the most value in our system
I
for.
think that's what the gentleman's doing right now for our parks. He's been out there, correct?
He's looking at trees.
Yeah, just the.
That was an
That's
arborist.
Arborist.
Oh.
I think that this, from a policy standpoint, I'd like to look as a commission at what our goals are for our users, knowing that we're going to have to decrease our water usage significantly. If we can plan ahead for that and decide where we'd like to focus our water usage for the maximum value for our participants, I'd like to have a discussion as a commission. But we can wait a little while. It doesn't have to go on our next agenda
I think we should
item.
Wait until we figure out everything that's coming down from the state.
That was gonna be my
Yeah,
request.
It's a
would
moving
just be-
target, I
yeah.
know, but I just want to keep it on the items that we'd like to agendize to talk
Sure.
about.
Yeah, I think it'd be good to get some input from the Parks Commission on
Okay,
that.
anything
as well as
else?
the public.
One other thing I had, Councilman Wyrick last month mentioned that the Libby Bowl Foundation is supposed to be coming in front of us. And I just heard that the Lions Club is not going to be doing their summer movie series in Libby Bowl this summer.
Oh, too bad.
So I would like to.
Opportunity.
Yeah, opportunity. And what is their plan or?
I'm glad you brought that up. We originally had them scheduled to come and present at this meeting, and they withdrew. They had a conflict, and so we're going to try to get them back as soon as possible. So
Great.
And they go to the Dead?
The concert, no.
sold out. It's sold out.
So it was a good first start for
That
them.
was
Oh,
the
yeah, I heard it was popular.
Dark Star Orchestra. Yeah,
Sir.
they sold out.
Okay. And
Somebody said they were better than the Grateful Dead.
Well, since the
All right.
Grateful Dead's
Anything
missing some
else?
people, that's probably true.
Okay. Otherwise, we're adjourning at 8:55.
Thank you.
Turn on the TV.